Hello, Keeker Things. Wade here, and today we have Liam joining us. Liam, what are we doing today?
We're continuing our tier list. We're doing a part two, and we're gonna finish up the vintage collection.
That's right, and if you enjoyed the last video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for this one as well, as we'll be continuing the list and finishing the original run of the vintage collection. Let's get things started off with VC number 48 for Weequay Skiff Master. Now, for me personally, I really do like this figure. Do I like him more than the other Weequay? Not as much, to be honest. But this one right here, he's got some very nice texture to him, very nice colors and paint apps, and overall, I think he's a solid B figure, in my opinion.
I would agree with most of that. I think that the wash on his tunic is really well done, and the molding on his face is also pretty good. Just looking at the box art on the packaging, you can see that it's just the paint is incredibly accurate. So I would give it a B.
Yeah, this one, he's just really cool. You cannot go wrong with this guy. I have him carded, and I found about, what was it? I think I was with you because we were at Age of Comics, and he was another figure that didn't have a price tag, and they were like, how about $5 for him back in like 2017 or whatever. I'm like, sold. All right, what's this next one, Liam?
Fee X Search. This guy's great. He's one of the best designs for Jedi that they used during Attack of the Clones, and of course his species carried on to be the Jedi Ungundai, and that's a great character from the Clone Wars. But just focusing on this one, I think he's a really solid design. I love his color palette, the brown robes and the white outer robe. It's just kind of like a cool inverse of like the standard Jedi colors. And additionally, I think the sculpting and the paint apps for him are just incredible. And the fact that the cloak is a unique soft goods where it's tattered at the edges and like kind of grimy looking. I would honestly give this figure an A.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. This is an A-list figure. I just love alien Jedi in general, but especially those of I think it's the Nikto species. This guy takes the cake as one of the coolest Jedi figures ever made. And especially with his unique cloth goods, with like what you said, with like the furred edges, and you can see just the tassels and all that all together. It's really nice. And it almost kind of looks like burlap, but it's honestly amazing for what they did with this figure. And I have him loose, and he's one of my favorite TVC figures made. So I think you're right. He is a solid A figure. Next up, we have the VC50 Han Solo Bespin outfit. Now, I think I might have an original one incomplete, but this one is actually really nice. He's got a couple of other accessories alongside with his DL44. And overall, he is a solid figure. He's pretty perfect for a Bespin Han Solo, in my opinion. I really like the colors. I especially love the way they did the pants and how he has the goggles and then the other little torch thing accessory for doing repair work on the Falcon. So for me, I honestly have to give this Han Solo a solid B for me.
I also really like this figure. I recently picked him up I think I got the new release just because he was dirt cheap and I needed this look for my loose collection. I think the Phototech reel on the re-release, it doesn't really affect anything all that much. I would think that you could go either way and really get still a really solid figure. While my personal favorite look for Han is the A New Hope outfit, I still think this being the primary standard grade default Han for the vintage collection is an incredible choice. And I would put him at either an A or B because his accessories are great. Paint apps are great. Great figure, great outfit choice. Great figure.
Would you say he's a definitive Empire Strikes Back Han Solo figure?
Definitely. Especially for Empire Strikes Back, definitely.
Okay, then you know what? I'll definitely put him under A because he definitely does take the cake for that. And I can absolutely respect that for that figure since he is that well done.
All right, Barriss Offee.
Oh, yeah.
Great character. Well, I should preface this by saying she was a cool design in Attack of the Clones, but went on to become a great character with plot twists in the Clone Wars and just vastly improved. It added a great story to the great design. And just speaking in terms of great design, it's perfectly carried over from Attack of the Clones onto this figure. I believe it has a removable hood, which I think maybe I don't think it ever happens in the movie, but her hood comes off at certain points in the Clone Wars. So if you are wanting to reenact or make a diorama of the Clone Wars, this would be a great figure to get for that. I don't know of any other Barriss Offee figures, at least with this level of articulation. Certainly not, but I don't know. It's a fantastic figure, and I think the great design just adds to it. I would give this a B, just because I feel like it could be better. It's not perfect. It's great, but it's not perfect.
Yeah, I know what you mean. This figure is absolutely gorgeous, and I just got her back the other day. Found one at a comic shop, and she really is a gorgeous figure. I need to get one for the loose collection, but I really do appreciate this figure, especially since it was all new at the time. But I definitely do see what you mean. They could improve it just a tad bit, but it is a very solid effort of a figure, and it's still gorgeous, even a decade later. So I think you're right.
Yeah.
She definitely deserves a B.
A B
Now,
plus.
this next one is pretty awesome. We have the VC-52 Rebel Fleet Trooper. Overall, this is a pretty solid action figure. He's got loads of accessories, like crazy amounts. He has the Rebel Trooper hat, he has the Rebel Blaster, but he also has like a gray sports cap that you can put on, and also the tracking reader, like when the Falcon flies in. And then he's also got like I don't like ammunition that you can have like as an ankle brace that you could put on his leg. Like, it's crazy how much stuff they included for this guy just for a regular trooper, and he is so army buildable. And this guy honestly probably deserves an A. Like, we're getting into territory where these are the really good figures coming out from Hasbro. But I really love this guy. I'd say my only complaint with him is probably the articulation for the swivel hips. But other than that, he's honestly a really good figure. With that amount of accessories and detail for what you get on a 3 3/4 inch figure, he's absolutely killer.
I completely agree with you on the A ranking. For me, I suppose I really do like the figure, but for me, what really bumps him up to the A figure is just his iconography. For however many variations on Rebel Troopers there are in the movies, the TV shows, be it the Endor Troopers or the Hoth Troopers or anything that ever appeared in Rebels, whenever I'm asked, like rarely, obviously, but whenever I think of what a Rebel Trooper is, in my mind, I always think to how they looked on the Tantive 5. And yeah, it's so iconic. And for that reason, I would agree that it's an A. Obviously, the figure itself has some problems. Like you said, the swivel hips have not aged well, but the rest of the figure really has. And it's versatility with the interchangeable parts. And I think there's something that is addable to the boots. It's like a ammunition pack or
Yeah.
something, but you can put it on the boots and just give instant variation to the figure, even when the face is the same.
Yeah, it's a crazy figure, and it's one of the coolest for sure. Now, what about this next one?
Mom Vimden. Honestly, all the Cantina aliens are just have such a level of iconography that can't really be explained in words, or at least none that I can think of. But speaking purely on a figure, in terms of the figure, it's fantastically molded, fantastically painted. It really captures the image, at least shown on the box art or the card art. And I don't know, there's something about the paint apps that really kind of matches the lighting of the Cantina. It's a little bit more not yellow or orange tinted, but you can tell that like that's the kind of paint they're going for. Like his
Yeah, you're
sleeves
right.
aren't really a pure tan; they're more of a yellowish tan or an orangish tan, and that matches the light of the Cantina.
Yeah, he's in very
And
warm colors.
very warm colors. Yes, thank you. And I think that just adds a level to if you were to want to make a Cantina diorama or display. This would be a fantastic figure to add to your collection. That being said, I also don't think he is anything like insane. So I would give him a B, although I do like that they included the blue milk with him. I think that's a
Yeah.
fantastic accessory. I think that whenever you do anything Cantina related, they should always have some form of drink. But the
Yeah.
fact that it's blue milk just kind of, I don't know, it makes me smile. So I would give it a B, but not quite an A.
Yeah, this guy was really cool, and I do remember seeing him a lot back in the day. I'd venture to say, alongside with Dengar, he was one of the biggest peg warmers besides the Phantom Menace figures. But at the same time, even though back in the day we might not have appreciated him as much, I'd say 10 years later, he holds up surprisingly really well. Like, for such a simple background alien, he is really, really cool looking. He's got those bug eyes, he's got the horn. Everything about him is just screams Star Wars and Cantina Alien. And I honestly really do love him for that. But
Right.
compared to other vintage collection figures, he's maybe not the most exciting one out there. There's definitely some more core classic Cantina aliens that we got as opposed to him. But for me, I'd probably say he might be either a B or a C.
Yeah, and I really like what you were saying about how he's not one of the main aliens, but how his figure was really well made despite all of that. And it's one of those figures that they could have slacked off on him and nobody would have really, I guess, cared. I mean, obviously, there's probably someone who's a diehard Bom Vinden fan, but for the majority of people, they could have just had rough paint apps and just solid head sculpt color without any differentiating from the horn, but they put the extra effort in, and I think that that really takes it from a C to a B.
Yeah, I think you're right. Then we'll definitely make him a B just to give him that respect that he deserves. Now this next one is the VC-54. Oh boy, ARC Trooper Commander or Captain Fordo. I think the answer is obvious where this one lies in the list.
S tier,
S
100%.
tier, no doubt about it.
Undeniable.
It's
Oh my
just
God.
one of the greatest clone action figures ever made. The body sculpt is perfect. The use of soft goods is perfect. The fact you can switch out two different helmets for either his phase 1 or phase 2 is perfect. His weapons are awesome. Honestly, you just can't beat him. He is one of the best clone figures, and I only have him carded. I don't have a loose one, but hands down, this is my favorite vintage collection figure ever made. It has been since back in the day. It still is 10 years later, and he is just one of the greatest. And he's definitely my personal favorite ever made.
You know, I agree with you with just about all of that. I wouldn't say he's my favorite, but he's definitely up there. Um, I like what you're saying about the interchangeable helmets and also the fact that his pauldron is interchangeable so that his outfit is
Yeah.
more accurate to how he appeared in the final, I guess, episode or the final volume of the Tartakovsky Clone Wars series. And I think that's just an amazing inclusion. Also, what you were saying about his weapons, they match the Tartakovsky art perfectly. Like most captains, be it, and of course, this came later on with the Clone Wars, the 3D animated series. But most captains just had like a standard kind of clone pistol. But these ARC troopers had these kind of like not quite an E11, but like longer barreled pistols. And I was just watching the since it's on Disney Plus now, I was just watching the new now that it's in HD, I'm rewatching the entire series and seeing him within those first few episodes just jogs so many memories. And I think this is just taking that and putting it into a real life esque, photorealistic, essentially figure. And they do it so flawlessly that it's undeniably an S.
Yeah, like this is going to be people are going to fight me on this one, but since I grew up with the Clone Wars Tartakovsky series since I was like I don't know 4 years old practically, I do remember watching it on my dad's little iPod that had a Darth Vader cover over it, just like the old Apple iPod. I remember watching Clone Wars on that, and of course the ARC Troopers in it were like the most distinct thing out of the entire micro series. But hands down for me, I like this guy more than Captain Rex. I can't lie. Just because of nostalgia and because I grew up with him a lot longer and he was awesome. He kicked some butt and you did not want to mess with that clone trooper for sure. But I really do love this figure and it is fantastic all the way around.
Moving on to Logray, this is essentially the counter argument to my feelings on Ewoks because I think that this figure is actually really cool. I think that he's maybe one of my favorite Ewok designs. And for me to have a favorite, given my distaste for Ewoks, is, I don't know, that's saying something about this figure. It's amazingly well sculpted. Um, the head sculpt is just really cool. It's got his like bird skull on his head, and he's got the bones on his staff, and then he's got his like satchel. It's so cool, and the paint apps go over it. And I think there's like a kind of a dark gray or maybe even black if it's lightly applied wash. I don't know. And his spear is also just a nice addition. I don't know. It's this. If I had to pick a favorite Ewok, it would be this one. So I
Yeah.
would say Logray is at least deserving of a B, maybe an A, but for me, I would say B.
Yeah, I think I'd give him a solid B as well. I really do love Logray, the Ewok Medicine Man, a lot as a figure. I think he is pretty stellar, especially with his paint apps. Um, Although for me personally, I would like him just a tad bit lighter if they were to ever re-release him. But overall, I think he is a fantastic figure. And even looking at his card art, just how much it screams the original Kenner version is just awesome. Like the small bubble and everything, his crazy staff thing and the spear. It's really cool, in all honesty, how they made this figure. So I think he is definitely deserving of a B, just because of how great of an Ewok and an action figure he is.
And I think it also really like piques the imagination because like with the bird skull, the fact that he is a medicine man for the Ewoks, I think it just like makes your brain think like, oh, I wonder what kind of bird that is, or like where on Ewok do they live, and like what kind of medicine. Like it's just it really gets the gears turning in that like creative sense, and that's something that I don't feel like a whole lot of the Ewoks do, at least not in my opinion. But this one is definitely a win for me. But
Yeah. So moving on from Logray, we're into VC56, Keithaba, or if you're going based off the original figure, Barada. This guy has two different versions. You could either find him in a brown bandana going across his head, or the harder to get red bandana. Now, the red bandana, I believe, is more accurate to the actual costume and character, and it goes for some insane money right now. It's crazy. I would have never even expected him to be that high for a red bandana Keithaba. But as a figure in one of Jabba's goons, this guy is pretty cool. A little bit on the basic side, and as accurate as his costume is, I just think there's a couple of more interesting versions or aliens that are more interesting than him, particularly. So I think for him, I'd probably either give him a solid C. I think that's what I'd give him. He's a very nice figure, just not the most exciting visually.
you know, I would agree with you. I would say he's a C as well. I think he's just I like how you put it. It's a little bit basic of a costume, and while it's very accurate in the costume sense, I would agree. It is still very basic. It's a very basic Jabba goon. Um, like what you're saying, it's very accurate with at least the red bandana being more accurate, as we can see on the card art. It is red in the actual movie, or at the very least in the promotional images that they shot. Um, I think that the torso sculpt and I guess the legs by default are a little bit too skinny. Just looking at the card art, I think he's just a
Yeah.
little bit thicker, and I don't know. Maybe that was a choice to make the bandana that he has easier to go around during the production process. But either way, he's cool looking. Not anything special though. So yeah, a C.
Now, what about this next figure?
Dr. Evazan is a staple of the original trilogy for even for the little screen time he's in. But you know, Darth Vader also had just a really surprisingly short amount of screen time being in A New Hope, and so this guy had even less, and he has not as much impact, but he's still very memorable. I think that the face sculpting is very reminiscent. I mean, it's kind of hard to see because it's very steeped in shadow in the movie, but I'm sure if you were to like put some hard light on this figure as well and create the some good lighting conditions, you could also recreate those scenes with the lighting that accentuates all the like I don't know, just the scar tissue over his face. and the molding, and it's fantastic molding. It really is just amazingly accurate. Um, the paint is also really well. I mean, you can see at least on the promotional image or the image of the him in the box, you can see that he's got like a little bit of painted chest hair, like
Yeah,
he
isn't that
has in the
crazy?
actual movie. And I think that's just something that could totally go overlooked, but it's both funny and stellar that they included it. So I would honestly give this guy a high B or maybe even an A. But I'll leave the tie breaking to you.
So I really do love this Dr. Evazan figure. I got him loose just without the gun, and I really do love him. There's two different versions you can get. You can get either something like a red scar or a pink scar, I think. I don't remember what version I have, but overall, this looks just like the character, and I honestly think that's as good as it gets for trying to recreate the character. So this one is definitely definitive status, if you ask me. Like, I don't even think he needs the Phototech reel or anything. He
Oh yeah.
is honestly perfect the way he is. So even though there are more exciting ones, especially Cantina Aliens, especially one in particular coming up soon, I think I'm just gonna have to give him a B.
Mm.
But other than that, he is a really awesome figure, and especially a really fun one as well.
I like what you were saying about how like if they were to release him, they wouldn't have to really do too much, at least in the line of photo reel to his face. But if they were interested in like just a quick cash grab and they had to re-release him, I would say maybe give a little bit more shading to the scar, just like
Yeah,
to bring out how fantastic the sculpting itself is.
no, you're
Because
right.
under direct light, you can't really see it. And you look at it, it's like, oh, I can, yeah, it's Dr. Evazan, but I feel like if they just put a little bit more in there, not necessarily a wash, but if they had to re-release it, I would like to see that. But this figure is perfect as it is, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, you're definitely right about that. Now, this next figure is equally as gorgeous as Dr. Evazan.
Yes,
we have
unfortunately, definitely.
we
Maybe
have
even
the
more so.
maybe, I don't know. I don't know. Both of them are pretty beautiful in their own
It's
way.
up to debate.
So we have the VC58 Ayla Sakura. I used to have her back in the day, and I sold her off. Lord
Shameless.
knows why, but but regardless of that, she's an excellent action figure and a gorgeous Jedi figure. Twi'leks are, of course, gorgeous aliens in general, but this action figure looks just like the character. It's crazy how they sculpted it, how they painted it, especially as well. And I honestly really do love it. It's an awesome action figure. Wish I could have it again, maybe one day, but for me, this one has to be probably a solid A.
You're definitely right. I ended up settling to get an Ayla Secura in my collection because at the time when I was looking to make a full Jedi collection, she had already started climbing in price and it just wasn't on the table at that point. And I ended up going with the Revenge of the Sith Ayla Secura figure, and it is just this is uncomparable. The articulation on the TVC figure is just it's amazing. It's got about the same amount of articulation as most of the other vintage collection line with elbows, arms, joints. And with the Revenge of the Sith figure, I think there's a swivel on one arm, and then the other arm is just kind of bent, and you just have to
Yeah.
like with like a swivel on the hand, and it's nothing compared to this figure. Additionally, with the paint apps on the original Revenge of the Sith figure, it's kind of a paler blue, and you don't get the same like I don't know what kind of color blue that is. It's maybe a little bit turquoise, but not necessarily. Maybe a deeper version of that. It's a little deeper blue than it was on the Revenge of the Sith figure, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And on this figure, and I don't think you can see it in any of the images or on the promotional images, but when you actually have the figure in hand, she's got the white spots or the kind of lighter blue spots on the back of her tendrils, and I think that's a fantastic detail to include in terms of paint applications. So I would say that this is a
Oh
solid
yeah,
A.
you're right. It's honestly amazing how they did that. And especially looking at her card back. Oh man, that's a gorgeous card back as well. Like,
Yeah, it's
why did I get
amazing.
rid of it?
I don't know.
I'm a fool.
And even the paint apps on like her, I guess like on her top, like it's got this weird like I wouldn't call it snake skin, but it's got a really
Yeah, it's like
distinct
leather.
texture, like a really distinct leather texture, and that carries over to the figure, which I can't even imagine how hard that is to print on a figure. So the fact that it's there is just, it's incredible. I think this is, for in my opinion, it's just shy of an S tier.
I know. I want to say my gut is telling me make her an S tier.
But my brain's
I mean,
saying,
is she S tier or is she an A tier?
I don't know. I mean, the face sculpt is just incredible. It looks exactly like her.
I might have to make her an S tier now that I think about it, just because of how many positives just
You're right.
rushed
It
into my
gets
mind
stacked.
about just thinking of her and holding her in my hands as a figure, and I'm like, oh, and I got rid of that.
Yeah, the positives just stack up, and I can't really think of a con. So I would say S.
Okay,
I
I
changed my
I think you're
answer.
right. We're not doing A anymore. We're doing S tier for this A-list Akira.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty. Nominor is so sick. I think that this figure rivals some of the best Star Wars figures ever made, and he's such a obscure character. I don't even know, like, this is not my era. I've always been more of an Old Republic person as opposed to post Return of the Jedi. While I do like that Legends material, um, but from what I do understand of that material, he was kind of like a good Yuzhong Vong, and I think he married Mara Jade and Luke to each other. I might be wrong on that, but I think I've seen that somewhere. I don't know. He's just incredibly sculpted. He looks exactly like the box art, which I think is like, I don't know what they did for the box art on the characters that weren't in live action, but the fact that they made them look so realistic, it makes me think that
Yeah.
they got people dressed up in props and took photos, which
But
I
it's almost
think,
like a painting as well. Like I love
yeah,
that effect. It reminds me of Star Wars.
it's so photo real as well. And it's just, if it is a painting, it's immaculate. I would buy that in a heartbeat just as a big poster.
That'd be pretty cool.
I don't know. It's just, it's incredible. I think he might have appeared in some comics. Maybe that's where they got the visual for him from. But I don't know. He's just so incredibly well done. I would say this is an S tier. Like, I
Yeah, I don't. Oh boy, it's
shows
kind of
his
tricky for
age
me.
in
He's
some
very nice.
aspects. What's that?
I think he's a very nice figure, but I think the problem lies with just it's almost a little too niche to become an S tier, if you kind of get what I'm saying. I think
I do see what you
he's
mean.
an absolute A tier for sure. And what's funny is I do remember seeing him occasionally when I did toy hunts back in the day and thinking, "Oh, that's cool they made him as a figure." And I always wanted to get him, but I don't know why I never was pushed to the edge to get him.
Yeah,
And
you're right.
I
That's
got him
true.
later in life, of course. I still need to get a loose one, but this guy is fantastic. He honestly is. Like, he's got a cape, he's got all kinds of like armor pieces, and that crazy looking weapon. It's like a spine. He's pretty scary looking. He's honestly a really cool figure.
He is cool. But I see what you mean about like how he lacks that iconography. You're right. Maybe he should be an A.
I think I definitely give him A status. If boy, what would be an S tier original sequel trilogy character?
I would like to see them do a Jaina Solo, but
Yeah, I think I would like that as well, or at
because
least
she's one of my
probably
favorite
Mara
characters
Jade.
from that. Yeah, Amara Jade, if they could redo her, maybe fix the hair sculpt from the Black Series one.
Yeah. Okay,
Or
so
if they
next
ever get
up,
around to it, Revan. But I
oh
doubt
yeah,
that's ever going
him
to happen.
too. So next up, we have the VC 60 Clone Trooper 501st Legion. Now, this one is, since I'm clearly not biased or anything,
Oh, no.
this one is, I want to give it an A tier just because of how great of a recreation of it is as a 501st Legion trooper. I definitely like it more than the 212th Battalion one for
Yeah,
Obi-Wan's
definitely.
troops. But at the same time, I could settle for a B as well, since it's literally the same figure, just repainted very, very nicely.
I think that they hit the nail on the head. And of course, I said this last video, but I think they hit the nail on the head with the original Revenge of the Sith release clones. And I think the 501st version figures of those with those mold are superior to this one. And that's just my personal preference, obviously. But it is still a 501st figure and a really good one at that. You can see the paint chips are, I think, fairly accurate because I'm looking at the card art And it looks like there's divots in the place that there's meant to be divots, and like scratches where there should be scratches.
Yeah,
I
they
wish
did a
there was a
solid
little bit
job on
more.
it. Of course, it could
Yeah,
use some weathering and some other kind of paint apps, but
yeah,
really, this is from 10 years ago.
yeah, true. And I was just gonna say, like, maybe they could have done like a slight wash on it if it was post Order 66. But as it stands, I would say it's a high B, but not quite an
Okay, then I think we'll definitely have to put him in the B category with his 212th brother.
A. All right, Croto Fett. This is a great figure. It's
Yep.
I don't know, it's just having never appeared in the films, it also carries such a level of iconography that is not really explainable, because I think especially in today's fan base, not many people really know about this costume, or I guess care about this costume. But it's such like I don't know. It's just cool. That's the
It's
only way I
really
can really
cool.
say it. It's just so cool looking. And the fact that they made it is cool at all, because again, he never appeared in the films. And as far as I know, he never appeared in any like Legends comics or anything like that
Not really.
with
I
his
mean,
appearance. So like the fact that they just made it, because I don't know. It's
well,
just
even
cool.
then,
That's all I can say.
like the Hasbro card for it. Now, this one I specifically remember in probably around 2015 or so, actively trying to get. And I told my dad, I'm like, look, I don't care how much money it costs. I need to get this figure.
Yeah.
So got one on eBay for like $50 or something like that. Came with the white box and everything. But what's so cool about this one is the card art as well that they gave it, because they have him in the pose holding the prototype gun as well, but he has the rangefinder down. It's based
Yeah.
off of an actual behind the scenes photo, and then they sort of photoshopped it a little bit to make it look like it could have been in Star Wars.
Yeah.
But it's just so cool how they did that. Like, man, why can't we get more figures like this? Like,
Yeah.
this
You
right
know what
here is one of the coolest mail aways that Hasbro did in years. I don't
I agree.
have the rocket firing Fett. I have this one. And honestly, I'd probably say I do like this one more just because of how unique of an idea it was and how just epic looking the white armor is. I love anything prototype Boba Fett, and this one uses my favorite mold for a Boba Fett figure. For me, it hits everything just so right.
You know, I feel just about the exact same way, because I have the other mail away Fett, the Rocket Fire Fett, and I love that figure, but I love this one way more. If they were to do it, I would like to see how they would handle the white Proto Fett armor with the new vintage collection Return of the Jedi mold. Like, I would want to see
I
that.
was just thinking the same thing.
Yeah. And obviously it's not a big issue, but I do think it's worth mentioning. I think the dents kind of stand out just a little bit more with the white armor, and obviously they're not on the original armor, at least not to the extent, I don't think. But it's such a minor issue that I wouldn't like let it degrade my love for the figure. But
Yeah.
I would say that it keeps it just shy of being an S tier. I would say this is a solid high A tier.
Yeah, I think he definitely has to take A tier just because of how unique he was for the day. I mean, because this is, even though people want to say this is like a Ralph McQuarrie concept Boba Fett figure, it really
It's not.
isn't.
Yeah, they
This
already
figure
released
is a
that, and it's
behind
great
the
figure.
scenes
But
prototype. It really is, in all honesty, because it's the prototype armor before Joe Johnston even painted it or anything. This, as far as the crew for Empire Strikes Back knew, all he was going to be
yeah,
was some sort of super trooper. They barely even planned him to be a bounty hunter or anything like that. This was just a new armor they were making, and it's literally history in the making. And they made it as an action figure. Like, this
yeah,
was back in Hasbro's prime when they had creativity. I wish they would make more figures like this
back
instead
when
of
they could.
re-releasing the same old Luke, Leia, Han. It's mind-boggling how far down the drain Hasbro
Yeah,
has gone down from making figures like this to what we're getting nowadays. And it's honestly an unbeatable figure. It's really, really cool. Even if they did Proto Fett with the new sculpt, this one just, there's more
so
heart and soul
classic.
put into it, and therefore I like it more,
Yeah.
honestly.
What's this next one, Wade?
So this next one is the let me pull up the number real quick. It is the VC-62 Han Solo Endor outfit in his trench coat. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of this Han Solo costume. It was never really my favorite. Just thought it was I don't know, just a bit weird for Han to be wearing it. As a figure, mm, yeah, even just looking at it, it's just not my favorite in all honesty. So might just have to give it a D. Like I feel like they could definitely make a new version of this figure and it have more definitive status. I like that it has cloth goods. I just feel like it's a bit poofy looking like a GI Joe
Yeah,
kind of figure.
you're right. It does give off that GI Joe type vibe. And me personally, I do like his Endor look, but just because it's situation specific, it's like it's I like it for the same reason that I like his Hoth look. I wouldn't want him to be wearing it on Coruscant or just in the Falcon, but for the situation, I think it works extremely well. I don't think I couldn't picture him in like the other Rebel gear or anything like that. Just putting a trench coat over his standard costume, and the trench coat doesn't last that long. I think he takes it off
Yeah, he
at
takes
the
it off pretty
Ewok
quick.
Village.
That's another thing. Like
Yeah,
it's fine as a variant, in all honesty. Like I think it is definitely fine and it fits for the environment. But like even then, like you said, he takes the trench coat off
yeah,
anyways.
briefly. And
So
you can do that with this figure. If you take the trench
yeah,
coat off, he works perfectly as a Return of the Jedi Han Solo. But yeah, I mean, for what it is, I would say it's a D. Um, the mold is it's all right, but I think I would have stuck with the A New Hope mold because I think they used it for the Yavin ceremony Han, and I think if they had just stuck with that mold and put a trench coat on it, would have been just maybe a little bit more consistent and also I think better because I actually don't like the body torso mold that they use for this
yeah,
and
because it almost looks very Power of the Force-ish with like how
yes, it's
upper
very
built his
top
muscles
heavy.
are, and like
Yeah.
especially since the black vest is removable. I didn't really like that either, in all honesty.
You
I
could use it
prefer it
as
when
like
it's
a
sculpted.
you could use it as like a carbon freezing type thing where it's like, oh, this is him at the beginning of the movie, and this is him in the middle, and this is him. I guess it's pretty much just a perfect Revenge of the. Oh yeah, sorry, the card I'm looking at says Revenge, so sorry, but Return of the Jedi Han Solo. It captures his look throughout the entire film, but it's also not perfectly well done. I think it's just trying to do too much, and I would also give it a D. But I could also see it being a C, but I'll agree with you on the D.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like if they were to redo this figure, which you know, now that I think about it, isn't he rumored to be in the next vintage collection wave with the Royal Guard?
Is he?
Yeah, and another Ewok or something like that. I think they are.
Wow.
Oh, and Admiral Akbar.
All
I
right. I
think
mean,
they
I
are
don't know if I'm super
re-releasing
big
him.
on this. Okay.
Oh,
Well,
for goodness
what you
sakes,
were
they just
saying,
can't let this figure and mold go. We already had it in Black Series 3.75 inch.
yeah, and I have that figure, and I think the coat is a little bit better on that figure. It's not poofy. It's more kind of a
Yeah, that's more like paper, right? Isn't
yeah,
it for that one? Or
it's like a papery fabric, but it's not paper. It's obvious. It's fabric. You can see the
yeah, it's
stitches,
just a
but like
thinner, very.
yeah, which I think works better, but it's also still poofy. It doesn't look that great.
Yeah, I forgot they're doing that. Jeez, that's even dumber now that I think about it as a repack.
Yeah, another one.
See, just like I said about Hasbro, it's like what is with these repacks and re-releases?
If they did make it so that it was just the which obviously they're never going to do, but if they did fix the body and they just use the A New Hope mold underneath, but give it the brown pants and the uh, molded on vest, I think that would work better. But they're obviously not going to do that, so I wouldn't really
Yeah,
bother picking it up.
I got a feeling it's just going to be the Black Series 3.75 inch with photoreal. That's
Yeah.
that's all I'm expecting out of it. Now,
All right,
what about
B-wing
this next
pilot.
one?
Let's see. I think this is cool. I think it's a cool looking figure. Correct me if I'm wrong, but and obviously this is because it's a removable helmet. But I remember in the movie their helmets being just a little bit smaller and a little bit more fitting over their head.
Yeah, his helmet is pretty big looking. It gives him a
Looks like
giant cranium.
he looks like Toad from Mario. And
Yeah,
yeah, okay. Anyway, the bodysuit, I think the red is really cool, and I think the red and white clash in a really unique way that the other orange and white doesn't. Um, I really like this figure up until I get to the helmet, and then it's so big and bulky and weird. I would have just preferred them to sculpt it on this one time for vintage collection. I would have liked just a solid helmet. I think that would have been I think it would have served the figure better. That being said, it's also not a terrible figure. Like I said, the jumpsuit and like the detailing work on that, and also the like big tube that connects to the like chest
Yeah,
controllers.
it even
I
hooks
think it
up to
looks
the
cool.
ship, which is actually a really cool feature.
Yeah, and that's a great feature. So it's got like cool features, but then you get up and you look at the helmet and it's like, oh my God. So
Yeah.
I don't know, because of that helmet and because it's so noticeable, I would actually have to give this a C. On
Yeah,
the
I
verge,
think
I wouldn't say D because of just how great the body itself is and how cool like the functionality of it plugging into the B wing is, but that helmet just really tanks it from being a B.
yeah, I think you're right. That helmet is definitely a bit odd, and I don't know, it's a bit odd why they did the helmet that way.
It looks like one of the characters from Spaceballs. Like
Yeah.
maybe this is what they were going for. Yeah, like seriously,
Yeah.
it's just the big stupid helmet.
Yeah, it kind of does look like it's very round, just
Soccer ball.
gigantic. But I will say he's not a bad figure, and he is part of the original Kenner run, so I do like him for that. I have the Neonum pilot, same B-wing flight suit and everything. It's got a Celestian head, and then but that figure is way cooler
Yeah, I
than
mean,
this, if you ask
you
me.
put
But
that
I know
head
why they
on
did the human
anything
one.
and it's immediately cooler.
Yeah, like speaking of alien pilots, there's another one coming up later in this video that
Which
I
is
really do love.
really cool.
But yeah, I think you're right. I definitely have to give him a C. He's not the worst, but he could be a lot nicer, honestly.
Tell us about this next one.
So this next one we have is the VC-64 Princess Leia in her slave outfit. Now, this figure is pretty much just a repack of the Legacy Collection version, but the one thing that the Legacy Collection version has that's better than this is it has her separate legs in a sitting
Yeah,
pose. So you
that's
can take off
definitely
the upper
something.
half of her body and put her in a sitting pose or in her regular action figure legs. I
You're
know why. I
completely
think
right.
they just couldn't fit the legs in the vintage collection packaging, and
I
it
don't
looked a
know.
little weird,
I think
but
they
it's still
could.
not a bad figure.
I think they could because she doesn't come with a lot of accessories. I think she comes with the I guess it's a pike of some sort, and she comes with the drink. I could do without the drink because that's mainly a Jabba accessory. I think that's what he has when he's like, "Oh, you will come to appreciate me." He's got the drink in his hand, but that seems like a Jabba accessory for a Jabba figure. I don't think it really should be in her packaging. And I feel like if you maybe took away the drink or even the pike, because I wouldn't really care, I wouldn't really miss it. It's a cool accessory, but I wouldn't miss it. And put the legs in because you could push the figure forward, have the legs behind it. I think that would have been really good. And now that you mention that, like I really like this as a figure, but now that you reminded me of what it's missing, I don't think I could give it an A. I would have to say maybe a B or a C.
Yeah, I might have to give it a C just because the Legacy version is superior in that sense. It's literally the same figure.
Yeah.
Just one has a crucial piece to it.
Yeah.
The other one doesn't have it. I just think they didn't do it because the extra legs would look weird, maybe. I'm not entirely sure. But
I
one
guess,
thing
but
is for sure,
also
we're never going to see this figure ever made ever again. So it's only going to go up and up.
I don't know. Maybe we'll see them. Maybe we'll be able to convince them to re-release another upcoming figure in this line that's basically this figure but with extra stuff.
Maybe. I don't
Maybe
know.
we'll be able to trick them.
So I think just for me, I have to give it a C, really, just because of the legs issue. The legacy one, if you do come across it, get the legacy one. That one is better.
I wonder how it compares in price.
Legacy is what, like, I don't even know where it's at this point. Is it around $90 or so?
They've
And
been climbing in
TBC is
price
probably
too.
around 100 to 200.
They've started going up in price too, not just vintage collection. But anyway, TIE
Yeah.
Fighter Pilot. This next one, TIE Fighter Pilot. I like TIE Fighter pilots. They're cool. I wonder how many times I can say TIE Fighter Pilot in a single breath. But this figure is really, really cool. They're staples of Star Wars since they first appeared in A New Hope, trying to take out the Millennium Falcon. It's really cool. I think there's a lot of good detail work to it. Obviously, the helmet's very accurate. It's got the tubes that connect into the box. The articulation is good enough, and I think that the legs are capable of going straight up and then doing a 90 so that he'll be able to sit in your TIE Fighter vehicle action figure. He also comes with a blaster, which is a nice inclusion because they don't really have. I mean, They do when they're running in the Death Star. They have the holsters with the blasters when they're running to get to their ships. But when they're actually in the ships, they don't really show it. So they could have completely dropped that and nobody would have really noticed, but they included that. And I think that's cool. Um, Based on iconography alone, I would put this as a B, but the figure really is quite nice.
I think it's a pretty decent figure overall. Although I do think just that rubber helmet is really starting to show its age these days.
Yeah.
Um, I'd say in some sense we've you're gonna laugh at this, but I remember in oh boy, it would have been around 2014, 2015 or so during the Rebels era, with
Yeah.
the 5 POA figures when those were introduced, and they released an AT-AT driver with a solid helmet, and that sculpt work blew my mind. And I'm like, why can't we have any other AT-AT figures with that? For
Would be
the
too good.
AT-AT driver. And I can't remember if they made a TIE fighter pilot. I know they did one in Rebel style. Let me look up real quick if they did one for the movie style.
And while you're doing that, I'll also say that while the rubber helmet does show its age, when it's in the cockpit of the Tie Fighters, I think it kind of just fits in really well. It looks good. If you can see it through the window and you're flying it around, it looks good. Um, I also like the idea that it is included so that if you were to have an Imperial display or if you were doing photography of the figures, you could have the pilots with their helmets off while they're like not in their ships. And that's an option. I don't actually have this figure, so I don't know if the tubes disconnect when you take off the helmet or if the whole thing comes
No,
off.
they don't actually. They're permanently molded to the helmet. And I think on newer versions, the chest is also permanently molded
Oh, well, in that case, it's just kind of
together.
dumb.
And it's very limited movement. You cannot really get any good side to side or anything like that
Well, in
from
that
what
case,
I
forget what I said.
remember.
Forget what
Yeah,
I said.
okay. So it's Best Buy has it. You remember that Celebrate the Saga thing Hasbro just did?
Yeah.
Best Buy has a set that has a TIE fighter pilot in it. And even though it's 5 POA, the helmet sculpt on it is far superior than anything else I've ever seen for
It's
TIE
enough to
fighter
warrant
pilots
a buy.
specifically. So in that case, I would prefer if they, oddly enough, they just re-released the TIE fighter pilot. Why didn't they have that head sculpt for it? It's still really nice, but I think I just have to give it a C just because I would prefer a newer retooled version that could maybe duel as an AT-AT driver as well, kind of thing.
Interesting. All right. I think it's your turn.
So for this next one, this one's a bit of an infamous figure, that's for sure. We have the VC66 Salacious Crumb. Now, back in the day, the only way you could get this figure is if you went to San Diego Comic-Con, what was it, 2011, where they had the giant Death Star Revenge of the Jedi collector set. And inside that set, they had both Salacious Crumb and also the Mouse Droid on their own mini, and I mean mini, like itty bitty vintage collection cards, and they were a part of the standard number system. And that was the only way you could get it. It was in like $130 set you could get at Comic Con, and nowadays it goes for like $2,000 or so. It's insane.
The full set or just Salacious Crumb?
For the well, if you want either, it very rarely happens.
Okay.
If you want the Mouse Droid, I think he goes anywhere from 500 to 800, and Salacious Crumb probably goes around for that price, maybe 1,000. I don't know, but yeah, it was a collectors were furious back in the day that they were a part of the official number system.
Yeah,
and all it is just two holes in their collection. For completionists, it drove them mad, and it's a bit of an odd move. I think it's a fine figure overall. I think it's just like maybe the 30th anniversary Salacious Crumb, I think.
it's a little weird in my opinion. I don't think the paint apps are all that special on it, especially since we've seen figures released earlier with stunning paint apps on the alien figures and like their head sculpts and stuff. I think the fact that this was a San Diego exclusive really should have warranted better paint apps. So as a figure, not including its rarity, I would have to put it to the D. But given its rarity, maybe a C.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think if it's any different from the 30th anniversary Salacious Crumb with C3PO taking his eye out. I want to say it's got like darker fur, like for the top of the head and like all around like his chest. It, it's suitable as a Salacious Crumb figure and mold, but like I said, all it is Salacious Crumb, and there's no
Yeah.
Jabba the Hutt to go with it unless you have the sail barge. So really, I think I'm just gonna have to give it a D.
Yeah.
Same for the Mouse Droid. Like I love Mouse Droids, don't get me wrong, but these
Yeah.
two together, it's a hollow piece of plastic, is what the Mouse Droid is. I don't even think he has like working. He doesn't even have
Like, I
working
would think
wheels.
that you could 3D print a better one.
You practically could, and there have been Mouse Droids released with actual wheels. This one
Oh,
literally is just a it's a little black cap. That's all it is, really. So
doesn't even look in scale. I mean, I'm looking at it and it's like
I don't know. It
looks
might
fake.
be in scale. I don't know. It's a bit of an oddity, really, that they made these, but people go nuts for them. That's for sure. I mean, heck, I would love to own these. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, there's no way in heck I would open a set so I can have
Yeah,
these.
seriously, just for the figures.
Yeah, there's no way, not a chance.
Yeah. I'll let you cover this next one since I know you love him so much.
Okay. Let me see. Where are we at? Okay. VC68, we have the Rebel Soldier from Echo Base in his battle gear. I actually really do like this figure a lot. I got him a few years ago for probably about $50 or so unpunched. And I really do genuinely think he is an awesome army builder. It's just a shame how hard he is to get. On average, he goes for about probably 70 to $100 or so. But you just can't deny, like, the green goggles fits Hoth so much. The outfit looks very nice. Very good choice in colors. I love this figure a lot. I really do wish Hasbro would re-release him again just so we could have a few more, because it genuinely looks perfect. I love the card and everything. It's an awesome action figure in my opinion.
Now, I am on the opposite side of that spectrum. Personally, I don't really see what the big whoop is about him and why he's so expensive and so rare to get. I can't deny he is a nice looking figure, but as far as Hoth Rebel soldiers go, I actually kind of prefer the ones that went outside and like fought the walkers, and they had like the kind of, I guess, the white and gray, I think. And I know they got released in the new vintage collection line that Hasbro's been making. And of course, it's odd. It's got the big bubble. It's, in terms of card, it's not that good, but figure wise, I actually quite like that one a little bit more in terms of Hoth Troopers. But I also can't deny that it's a nice figure. I would probably put it as a B, but I would also compromise and say A.
I think, oh boy, I think just for the sake of the argument, I think I just have to put him at a B, just because he really is just a standard trooper. Like, he doesn't even have a name or anything like that. He's just your basic run of the mill Joe kind of guy. But at the same time, I really like him and appreciate the figure. But he is expensive to get, that's for sure. I really do wish they'd make a new version. Maybe one day. I don't know. But what about this next figure, Liam?
We have reached my wheelhouse, the Old Republic. Bastila Shan. This character is one of my favorites, and I have to say that the figure itself is really cool. The body sculpting is just incredible. The way they like replicated her armor from the games. They're not armor, but like kind of the brown leather tunic parts of her outfit are perfectly replicated. The yellow parts of her costume are also really well done, but the head sculpt is just a little weird, especially when you have the card art right next to it to show you like how it kind
Look
of
at how gorgeous she is.
Yeah, that's incredible.
For the card, it's amazing how what they did for the
wonder
card.
who they used as a reference, because they should play Bastila in whatever property coming forward. But putting that aside, on the actual figure, the head sculpt is so to say.
I don't know. It's pretty weird. It's the saddest part about the figure. Like,
it's
the hair doesn't even match. The face shape doesn't even match.
You don't get
body.
the side,
I think is
like,
okay.
you don't get like the, and I'm pretty sure this was in the game as well, but you don't get like the side things coming down on the side of her face.
Like, it's a weird figure.
I think the bun in the back is accurate, but I don't have any like don't recall exactly what her hairstyle was beyond like the front strands or whatever. The lightsaber is pretty accurate to the old game that I can remember, as well as her lightsaber being yellow. Um, Dang, just based on what a fan I am of the old KOTOR games, I want to say S so bad, but the dang head sculpt is so awful.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a little more ambivalent towards this figure. I think
I'm so
I don't
stuck in the
know.
middle.
Just looking at it now at photos, I definitely don't like the head sculpt, but the body
And
sculpt as well. She doesn't have, I don't
it
know.
shows
She
its
just looks a
age.
little bulky. Like, doesn't
Not even
have the
that, but it's
curvature that the actual character has, for
it
lack
looks
of better
wrinkly
words.
almost, like the costume. Like I remember in the game, and obviously this is a game, it's an adaptation, and even some of the artwork, it's a little bit more skin tight, but not like skin tight. It's more just like I guess form fitting is the word.
Yeah,
And on this one, it looks like really baggy almost.
exactly. Like the figure, it looks very. Her arms are kind of thicker, and like there's just wrinkles all throughout the body. Like
Yeah.
it's so weird looking. It's just to me. It's still a really nice figure, especially for that lightsaber,
Oh yeah, the
especially
lightsaber
the
is
saber.
incredible. I don't know. I
I don't
mean,
know. This one's a bit of an oddity because he could go both ways.
yeah, I'm just gonna have to say, put her in the middle of the chart, give her a B,
Okay.
because that's I don't know. That's all I can really think of for her.
Yeah. And interesting, here's a fun fact. Bastila Shaw, back in the day, I think like 2009 or something, she was a fan vote character. And then they released her in the vintage collection. So
Back when
pretty
fan
cool.
votes
It's
were
just I
king.
don't know what happened to the general sculpt of her body and especially her head, but it's still
Yeah,
really nice that they did that when fan votes were actually fan votes.
yeah. As
And
opposed to just
yeah, we're not
farce.
even going to go into that territory. But next up, VC70. We have Ponda Baba or Walrus Man. I really love this figure. I loved it when it came out. Everything about him is just really cool, especially with the extra arm that's even cut up in the package. And then you got the extra hands and you got his glass of blue milk. This guy is an awesome action figure. Part of me would venture to say give him S tier if it wasn't for the head sculpt. I feel like they could just tweak it ever so slightly because he looks a little bit more like a spider than the actual character is in the movie. His eyes should be just a little bit bigger and a little bit lower, where his fang thingy mobobbies are. Other than that, he's a really cool character. I love him to death. I would probably give him an A.
I would also agree with the A, but I do have some problems with it. That being that the arm that's cut up, I don't think that needs to be fit together. Like it, I don't think it needs to have the little peg in it so that you could put them together. I
Yeah,
think
that
it would
is
work.
annoying. That
I
I
think it
don't
would
know
work
why they
way
did that.
better if they had like his normal arm, which is just solid normal arm, it's standard Ponda Baba. But when you have the cut up arm, it would connect up the top. He would have his little stub that connects into his shoulder, and then you would just have like an almost like an accessory of an arm with like the burnt in it, and it like you could have like the a cauterized wound or whatever, like printing on it. And I think that would have worked way better because looking at it, you can't have it displayed, or I mean, at least not to the extent that it could be on the floor. Like just like it, I don't know. It just kind of it would have worked better if they had done it differently.
Yeah, I think you're definitely right about that. I don't know why they used that peg system. Just because, it's like visually, it didn't even look like it did in the movie.
Yeah.
But I will say, on the other hand, I do wish they attempted to do the classic card back for him. I know why they did the movie one, just because it fits better with the modern age.
Yeah.
They maybe could have picked another photo for him because his face really is blocked by the limited edition Boba Fett sticker.
You're
But
right. I think
at the end of the day, he's still really nice. And I'd venture to say I want to give him an A tier, but I could compromise and say B tier, really.
I would say a B tier, or I'm sorry, I would say an A tier as well, despite its issues. But I think maybe for the card, what about that scene where he's kind of like pushes Luke a little bit, like, "Hey, you spilled my drink" or whatever. That's not what happened, but sorry.
He
But
just didn't like him.
he's saying he didn't like him, but where he's like kind of pushing him, I think that would have been a better card image for that. If they weren't going to use the original.
Yeah, this one I'm trying to determine if it is. I want to say it's that scene, but they photoshopped the background to be black. But I don't know. It's a bit of an oddity, that's for sure. But it does mesh together for the most part pretty well, especially on that Star Wars card.
All right, Mahonic, maybe.
Oh wait, are we gonna give him an A or a B? I forgot.
It's A.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this one's Mahonic.
Okay, Mahonic. He's cool. He's fun. He's a cool looking little guy. I don't know. I can't really pick him apart. I can't think of any flaws anyway. Maybe he could have some knee articulation, but
Does he have? He might actually have knee articulation. I can't
if
remember.
he does, then I would like him a lot better. But I don't know. He's cool. I think this is one of
Yeah,
those
he
ones.
does.
Oh, he does. Okay, good. In that case, he's a little better. I think this is one of the ones where it's a solid, good alien design. It's not like an A-list character or anything, but it's a solid figure, and I don't really have any nitpicks for it. It looks great. I would
I
say
love this.
I would say B tier, but
Yeah.
just
Honestly, I love some of these pod racer figures they made for the vintage collection. And this guy, he honestly is really cool. They did a very nice job with him, especially getting the height for him since he is the shorter character. I love that they did that. For me, I would, you know what? I think I would actually say he's a B figure
yeah,
just because he, Reese is more recognizable for his species. But
yeah,
this guy is a great little effort. He's got a gun. We know he's a pod racer pilot. It's great scale and everything. He honestly works super well. He's a great little character. So I think I would probably put him as a B.
I agree. He's also one of the cooler practical props that they used from that movie.
Yeah, great little costume too. So next up, we have the VC-72 Naboo pilot. I actually really like this figure a lot. I think the soft goods are pretty good for his
Yeah,
trench coat that he has. The helmet looks pretty good as well, and the goggles as well, since there's two different versions. You could have the
yeah.
helmet with the goggles up or the helmet with the goggles down.
I think this is what they should have
Face
done
sculpt
for
is
that
cool.
AT-AT pilot
Yeah, they
for
should have done
Commando.
something like that, right?
Mhm.
But this figure, I think, is actually really, really solid. I think at the same time as this one came out, you could get him on the vintage collection card, and then I think Rick Oley was on the Phantom Menace 3D card, I think. And it would have, if you ask me, it would have been kind of cool to have both of them, since you could
Yeah,
have either Rick Oley or this guy. I think as a figure, he's probably a solid B,
I agree.
just because he's just a regular trooper or pilot guy, and he looks excellent. Like I can't even think of anything that's remotely wrong about his costume or the way they made the figure for him.
I agree. I would also say B. I can't really think of anything else to say other than the cloth goods really make it for me. I think this would be a C tier figure, but that the fact that they included those really gorgeous soft goods bumps it up to a B for me.
Yeah, this guy is pretty cool, but not as cool as this next one. Who do we have
RS
next?
Singh. God, I love this figure. I love this character. This is one of my favorites ever. I would say this is an S tier, but I do recognize that it has some flaws, and I would also go for A tier. But to more explain, I think this is the same situation as Barriss Offee, but I think done a little better. I think this was a great design from the Phantom Menace that they later used and expanded upon in the Clone Wars, and just made the character as cool as the design. I think that the inclusion of her little box of lightsabers from her Jedi victims is just such a cool inclusion. I think that's awesome. Like
Yeah.
it adds so much lore to it that you don't really get in the movies or the Clone Wars necessarily, because it's never outright stated that she's a Jedi hunter. Obviously,
Yeah,
she is
and
in
that was
Legends.
her
Yeah,
profession. Like,
obviously she is in Legends, and they say that in the comics. But in the Clone Wars itself, she's just kind of a run of the mill bounty hunter. But including those lightsabers really is better than a wink and nod to her real profession. But it just adds so much, and I love it. Her twin pistols are also really cool. I love the silver applications on the hilt and the muzzle. Her blaster is also really cool. I think that the antenna is really well done. I think they could have screwed that up really
it
easily.
looks good. It really
Yeah,
does. For that scale, it's phenomenal that they even
yeah,
got it in there in the first place.
I agree. Um, the hair sculpt is really great. The fact that they have printing inside the hair sculpt to show the beads is just incredible. Um, in terms of articulation, it could be better. I can admit that. But it's still not terrible. It's actually like good. Um, yeah, I just think that it's lacking some articulation in the torso, but that's it. And that's to be expected of just about every vintage collection figure. Yeah, I would say an A.
Yeah,
Or an
this
S,
one
sorry.
for me, I think I really do love this figure for the most part. Like the amount of accessories it has, it's crazy. Even for like a bounty hunter character, this one I like has the most out of any of them, I think. But the only fault I find with this Aura Singh figure,
Mhm.
and if they ever re-released it, now hear me out, Hasbro. The eyes were my biggest problem with this figure. It
Really?
looks just a little too Clone Warsy for trying to replicate the Phantom Menace. I know why they did it that way, to make it just because it was the way they had to do it so that you could be able to see that she has eyes and then the
You're
gray
right.
around it. But if they did phototech, they could easily get away with it now that I think about it. Having the gray around the eyes and then phototech eyes, boom, it would look just straight out of Phantom Menace with the makeup they did
You're
for her.
right. I agree with that. I actually like the eyes here, but of course, I really recognize her character from Clone Wars. Obviously, she appeared in Phantom Menace first, but that's where I recognize her character from. So I didn't even notice anything was off. But you're right. Given that it is a Phantom Menace figure, it should have like a bit darker eyes. I would
Honestly,
say
you know
it's
what? I think I might have to make her an S tier just because this is where Zam Wessel was a great figure. Like we've already established that, but Aura Singh takes it up to a notch. I kind of feel like we have to give her an S tier now that I think about it.
yeah,
Just because if all that nitpick is really just about her eyes, she's a stunning figure then. Like that's nothing really. Like they did it just so you could see her, that she has her pupils and everything, which I'm still fine with. I still love the figure and everything. I think you're right. I think we need to give her an S tier just because she is absolutely killer.
I agree. Oh, we have a Gungan next. Your favorites.
Oh boy. So this figure for the Gungan Warrior VC74, I I like this figure. I like the accessories that he has. He's got the staff. He's got that weird two. I don't even know what the heck it is. It's like a two baton yoke thing going across his back.
Yeah.
But I want to say there is a better Gungan they could have used. I think from the Legacy collection. I can't remember what version they did. This one in particular is not a Gungan Warrior. I think this is a Gungan Scout. So right off the bat, they got the character type wrong. I think this figure is the Gungan, if I'm not mistaken, that sits on top of one of the statues in Naboo, and then Anakin's like, they're here, and then he's on there doing his own
Yeah.
thing. I think that's what this Gungan is, and he's not an actual Gungan warrior. That's my only problem with him, really.
Yeah. I would give it an A or B tier. I agree with just about everything you said. I think the labeling issue, it's not that big of a deal, especially for Gungans, but it's a cool looking figure in its own. So if you were to say A tier, I would agree, but B tier is
I
probably
just
my
don't know if I could give him an A tier. I think I'm thinking maybe B or C, just because they put the wrong Gungan for the type of Gungan they were trying to say he is. I think honestly, I'll just say he's a B
Yeah.
because he's not a bad figure. Like I do wish I had him loose, and I wish I had him carded as well. He's a bit tricky to get for a for a Gungan. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
But he's pretty cool nonetheless.
Alrighty. Qui-Gon Jinn. Uh, I actually have mixed feelings on this figure. I have him at least the same mold. I got him in an Evolutions pack, but I don't know. I think it's a good figure. It's solid Qui-Gon. I think the head is a little bit too small, maybe a little bit more than a little bit,
Yeah,
but
he's a very tall figure
he's
for a
very
small
tall,
guy.
which is good because Liam Neeson, of course, was tall. But just the head is really tiny, especially compared to the rest of the body. And when you look at how the hair sits, you can see that it's a really long neck and a really tiny head.
Yep.
And it works well for the time and what they're trying to do and the figure they're making. But I think if they were to ever re-release him, I would want them to make his head a little bit more proportional.
Even that, yeah, I think you're right. For me, this one's probably a C. I think
C tier.
just because I do wish they had more definition in the head sculpt itself, like, because Liam Neeson's hair clearly goes up like that instead of being completely flat with his forehead like this
Yeah.
figure is. Um, the new Black Series one that they did, I think they should take those files and shrink it down
Yeah,
if
they
they
did it
were
for the
ever
first
to
one.
make more Phantom Menace figures. I mean, they've done Queen Amidala, which is beautiful. They've redid the Battle Droid, which is nice.
Yeah.
I think they could maybe give Qui-Gon Jinn another attempt, and it'd be pretty good. But I think just for this one, it's a C. Also, his saber is very thick.
Yeah, it is very thick. And what's Qui-Gon without his Padawan, Obi-Wan? Tell us about this guy.
So VC76 Obi-Wan Kenobi. I actually really like this figure a lot. I think once again, this is another Legacy Collection figure. This one I think is pretty solid. His head sculpt could be just a little bit better, just with the hair. I think if they made it just a tad bit shorter and sharper.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think he's a great figure overall. I like his saber accessory that he has. I like that he has the little comm link. That's a very nice little detail to include.
Yeah.
For me, I think I have to give him probably a solid B.
I would agree with the B. Actually, I think the hair is accurate. It's just accurate to where he's in during the reshoots when Ewan McGregor was wearing a wig. So I think it is accurate, but it's more accurate to the wig than the actual how he
Maybe.
looked during initial shooting. Because if you look into the at the final duel, which of course is on the card art, his hair is kind of just a shorter, spikier look. Whereas when he's actually wearing the wig in the movie, it's basically exactly how it looks on this figure. It's just poofy and big on the sides and weird. And I don't know. I also dislike the lack of paint on the lightsaber. And I understand that maybe it's so intricate of paint that they wouldn't have been able to do it. But they did it earlier on the Attack of the Clones Obi-Wan lightsaber, which is basically the same. And given that this is the vintage collection, which is like the height of quality, it bugs me that they didn't paint it like as well as they could have done at least. And I can't really see on the other side.
During this time, this was the Phantom Menace 2012 3D re-release, and well, I don't know what Hasbro was trying to cash in on, but basically this figure was like available in the vintage collection. It was available in the Discover the Force line at Walmart. And I want to say there was even a Movie Heroes version where he had a light up saber. They definitely flooded the market with this Obi-Wan mold, I think.
And so, I like how Obi-Wan looks in the Phantom Menace. I just think that this figure is, I don't know, it has some issues.
Yeah, it's got a couple of issues for sure. Is he another C or is he a B? I don't know.
I would say he's a B, but it's probably because I just like the Phantom Menace look for Obi-Wan a lot.
Maybe. Would you say it's an iconic Phantom Menace Obi-Wan figure?
If they had painted his lightsaber, I would say yes. But because they didn't, it just drops the quality more
just
than it
ever
should.
So slightly,
so
huh?
I would say B.
Okay. I think every single Obi-Wan figure is a B-list figure. It's kind of funny. But that means he's solid good.
Well, there is one coming up that is most certainly not a B.
Yeah, that one. No
we'll
spoilers. Okay.
All right. This one's mine, I think. Rats Tyrell.
Rats Tyrell.
Rats Tyrell. What a name. And the Pit Droid. That's a lot simpler. I actually really like this species of alien. I like the Jedi figure they released for like an Attack of the Clones wave.
Yeah.
Of this Jedi, of this species. It's fine. That's a nice little 2-pack. It's cool. It's 2 smaller characters, and I think that's cool that they included 2 since they're so small. I don't have any attachment to Pit Droids. I think they're a cool design, but I do like the paint on this Pit Droid. I think the reddish orange is actually really nice looking.
Yeah.
And I like the figure of of Tyrell. I like Rats Tyrell as a figure. I think he's cool. He also comes with a little cap, which I think is nice.
Yeah, so you can do the pod racing look.
Yeah.
He's even got a little gun. Just an itty bitty little pistol.
Yeah. I would say this is a C tier figure, or C tier figures.
I definitely like this Pod Racer 2-pack a lot. I don't know. I'm just a sucker for these Pod Racers. I don't know why, but I am. But I don't know. I don't know if I'd put him in a C or if I'd put him in a B actually. Just because, like you said, that pit droid is really, really cool.
And if you do want to put him in B, the pit droid warrants that.
I think so,
That's
just because it's
yeah,
a nice looking 2-pack. They work very well together.
yeah. And plus, given that it is a 2-pack, I think you're right. It should go up just a little more for its creativity.
Yeah, it's a pretty neat little set, and also his card back is hilarious since the photo they use is his mouth all like making his weird frog noise, like
It's right before he
right
explodes.
before he explodes.
That's like one of my favorite parts of the movie. I always loved that sound effect when I was
I
little.
know. I'm like, what on earth did Ben Burt use to make that sound effect?
Probably stubbed his toe and was accidentally recording.
I can't even mimic it.
Where's that remix? I want it.
I know. Okay.
All right.
Let's see. Next up, we have the VC-78 Battle Droid. This figure, I'm a little bit mixed on. I really do like Battle Droids.
I know
I
you do.
like this figure for the most part, except why is his neck so short?
He
Why?
looks like he's shrugging at all times.
Yeah, he's like I don't. It just boggles me. I'm like, Hasbro, you've made plenty of good battle droids before.
Yeah.
They have the head sculpts and everything for it. The paint apps are very good on it. They got a wash going over it. They got the eyes perfect, which I always
it looks very nice, and it's very accurate to the movie in terms of paint.
Yeah, exactly.
The body itself is also very accurate. I think you're right though. It's just that head.
Yeah, it's just the head. Like some people criticize the head for being too big. I think the head is fine. It's just he doesn't have a neck. Because the eyes, like most Hasbro figures for battle droids, their pupils are too huge, and it bugs me. I'm like, that looks nothing like a battle droid. But when they do it smaller like that, I'm like, boom, that's exactly what they look like in live action and stuff.
I think the head maybe is a little bit big, but it's not like that's not what should be taken from this figure. It should be the neck.
Yeah. I'm probably gonna have to say, just because of the whole head neck ordeal, I want to say C, but I know it's probably a D, just because they could use better molds out there.
I agree.
In all honesty, so even though I like this figure, he's just gonna get a D. But this next one, what about this next one, Liam?
Phantom Menace Darth Sidious is, oh my gosh, it's so cool. It's so cool. It's so insanely cool. And it's simple too. This is really the definition of less is more. It's simple, but it also looks exactly like how he does in the movie. It has the removable hood, which of course, if you saw the last video, you know I'm a sucker for. And it shows you like the kind of younger Palpatine. He's got some grays in his hair. He's obviously not young Palpatine, although you could use him as that if you were to ever do any him and Plagueis dioramas or displays. And I think the head sculpt is pretty good. It's obviously not exactly like it's not.
I think it's excellent, honestly. They got the hair right. They got the face,
especially for the scale.
It looks like young Ian McDiarmid.
Yeah, it's certainly much better than the other Phantom Menace Palpatine figures, the Sheev Palpatine Senator figures. It's certainly better than any of those. I think his saber is also fantastic. I think the bronze on this one is a little less bronzy than on
brown.
It's brown. This is what I was talking about with the Revenge of the Sith Palpatine lightsaber. Is that one is bronze through and through. This one is one of the brown ones that they've released, and it looks good, but once you've had bronze, you can't go back.
Yeah.
So I think if I were to ever display this figure, I'd probably have him with one of the bronze sabers if I could ever find an extra one. I would actually give this an A tier, but because of his simplicity, which I think is fantastic, and it's obviously how he looks in the movie, but I think because of his simplicity, he's not quite an S tier, but he is for sure an A tier.
Yeah, this one is easily an A tier. I love this figure. I have him loose, and what can I say? When you put that cloak over his head, it looks straight out of the Phantom Menace. Yeah. The way the light cascades down on his face,
right?
It looks insane. It like gets his nose and his lower mouth, and that's it. Like it looks legit how they did it.
That's the hood to beat for all other Palpatine hoods.
Yeah, I agree.
Mold, and I would say nothing of it.
I think it is on the verge of S tier.
Yeah, just
but
barely.
only because I think the Revenge of the Sith one is just slightly better.
Yeah.
Just because you are able to have the lightning effect, you have the unique soft goods. Everything of that figure just kind of blends a little bit better together. Even
Yeah.
though, oddly enough, for me personally, I prefer this Palpatine figure more than the Revenge of the Sith one.
Yeah.
I think just this one is just a solid A through and through. Like
Yeah. I agree.
it
And
was a great figure when it came out, and it's a great figure today.
I agree. And when you have him displayed next to Plagueis, the Black Series version, it's just otherworldly how cool they look.
Yeah.
So tell us about this next guy.
So this next one is an interesting figure. We actually have Anakin Skywalker basically in his youngling outfit from the end of the movie. I actually really like this figure. I think it is very unique. I like that they gave him such a short saber. It's a cool saber design as well, but they give him the training remote and the youngling helmet thing. Like,
Which wasn't even in the
what more
movie.
do
So
you
that's
need? It wasn't even in it. It's like this is almost like after the Phantom Menace or him in training or whatever, not
Yeah.
even seen on film. And it's so cool looking. It honestly is. He's got pretty decent articulation for his size. It looks just like Jake Lloyd. I
Yeah,
really do like this figure a lot. In all honesty, I really do.
I think it's fine. I don't really love any of the young Anakin figures, but this one is cool because I feel like you could have it. Um, and I have this loose minus his like head helmet and training remote, but I feel like you could have it like with Phantom Menace Obi-Wan, and he's like training him. And I think
Exactly.
yeah, you could have it in those kind of displays or scenarios, and I think it looks good there. I can't really think of anything else that I could really see him in other than obviously just in training dioramas or Jedi Temple looking things around the time of Phantom Menace. Um, I would have to give this a B because
Yeah, me
it's,
too.
it's a cool figure, but it's also not A tier figure.
Yeah, it's not. So this is where it's an interesting case, really. Typically, what Hasbro makes nowadays, or most of the time, is they want to make figures in their iconic outfits or the outfits that were seen on screen. Very rarely did they go off screen or were they as bold or as adventurous, giving
Yeah.
us something new that we honestly never really even thought of. Like, who would have looked at the end of Phantom Menace and saw Anakin like that and be like, I want that as a figure? Like,
Yeah, no
and then
one.
Hasbro gives it to us as a figure and like, okay, we like this.
Yeah,
Like,
seriously.
that's what's so neat about it. And I'm like, I wish we could get more figures like this, really.
Yeah,
It's
I
pretty
agree.
neat. It's not even his definitive outfit. It's just when it's done really nice, it's done really nice and it's really cool.
I
So
agree.
I do have to give him a solid B for that.
All right.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
getting stuck with the pod racer names.
That's on you, pal.
Yeah. Ben Quadaneros. Did you get that right?
Yep.
And Atoga 222. These guys are great. I love how funky they look. They're fun. I like that droid especially. He's just so grimy, cool. Like he's just ooh. And of course, Mr. Ben. He's fun. I would give these A tier. I don't really think I need to.
Honestly,
I don't
I
need to
was
explain
I was
myself.
wondering what you were gonna say about these because this guy is A tier on my list.
Yeah.
For such an ugly alien, an ugly character in the Phantom Menace, even as a CG model, it's like,
Yeah.
dear Lord, that is
Fun.
hideous. He's an awesome pod racer, and I honestly think he's my favorite out of all the TVC pod racers.
Yeah, I would agree.
Like,
Although I do really, really like that droid.
I do wish he was in his like more, I don't know, his dopey, smiley look, but he, just looking at him, he's hilarious. But he looks
He's so
awesome.
agitated looking.
I know he's like he looks really angry that his pod racer blew up. Oh my goodness, he's so hideous, but you gotta love him. Ben
Oh, yeah.
Quadaneros, ladies and gentlemen.
The man himself.
Okay, next up we have VC82. Another favorite of mine. I love Dulce Dauphine. I think it was really cool that they did these never before offered or character debuts for these
Yeah,
figures. This guy is so cool. Even though he is stunted slime, he is a great looking Neomedian. I can't even say it right now. It's too late. Neomedian. There we go. He looks awesome. I really love this character. I think he's one of the cooler ones in the Phantom Menace. He's a killer action figure, in all honesty. Great soft goods. And then what's interesting with this figure is Hasbro made his proportions and stature a lot skinnier so they could account for the fact that he's going to have soft goods over him. And it's just genius. It blends together very well because that's what the alien species looked like. And I honestly love this figure. For me, I would actually give him an A tier.
I agree 100%. I think the blue soft goods are gorgeous, and the mold itself is phenomenal. I would love to see him get killed by Anakin once again.
All right, what about this next one?
Naboo Royal Guard. I don't know much about these characters, and I've never really been too much of a fan of them. I think I like Captain Typho, obviously, because he's Captain Typho and he's cool. But just the normal Naboo Royal Guards. I love his pistol. I think that's like a really cool little design and mold. I like their armor. I think that's cool. I like their helmets. I think their helmets are a little reminiscent in certain ways of the original A New Hope Rebels. But I mean, obviously not exactly like it, but they're reminiscent in shape. So I kind of like that. I like the colors. I like the style. I like the design. But also, I don't really care for the figure. So I would have to say C or B.
Yeah, this one, even though he is another character debut, just like Dulce Dauphine, I don't know, he's very nice. Looks just like the actual costume in the movie. But I think there was a reason why they never made it in the first place, and it's just because it's not as exciting or visually capturing as, say, the Rebel Fleet Trooper or even like the Senate Guards. Like those are more visually interesting since they're like Emperor Royal Guards or something like that. Something like that. Like he's a very nice figure. He's pretty decent as a trooper, but that's all he really is at the end of the day. So I think you're right. Captain Typho would have been way cooler as a figure.
I would love a Captain Typho figure.
Yeah.
That'd be so cool.
Okay, this next one, VC-84 Queen Amidala. Now, it's interesting that Hasbro chose this outfit. It's not even her iconic look in the red dress or anything. This one is this is the Senate hearing outfit, right?
Oh, you're right. It is. It's
I
when
think
she
that's
goes
what
to
it is.
Palpatine and she's talking and like discussing diplomat things, and he's like, "I must appear to the Senate."
Yeah. So this outfit,
right.
it's a gorgeous looking figure. It honestly really is. They did a very nice job with it. Paint apps are gorgeous. The textures especially is what really hits it home for this figure. I like it a lot, but at the same time, I love her red dress even more. So I think for me, it's a solid B.
You know what? I would have to agree with you on the B, because for as cool as it looks, that torso articulation, the split right in the middle of the figure.
Nah, I know it's a bit rough. Like, would you rather have that or no articulation at all? I don't know.
You know how I feel about traffic cones. So I would rather have that, but it still doesn't look good. So I'm going to say B or C, because it's still a cool costume. And the detailing work, I mean, it's a pretty looking traffic cone. Like the actual detailing on the plastic is phenomenal. Yeah, maybe a B.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool figure, and especially for once, the phototech looks better than the original figure.
Yeah.
They did a nice job on the new re-release. I'll give them that, but I think just for me personally, I'd still rather prefer to have the original characters. Oh boy, next one for you.
Voss. Ooh. I love this character. He's cool. He's Quinlan Voss. He's another one like Aurra Sing and Barriss Offee, who was a cool design in The Phantom Menace, expanded upon in the Clone Wars, and made so the character matches the design in terms of quality. I like that I like his lightsaber. Obviously, I love that. I love his blaster. I think in the movie he's got like a sort of robe on, and I would have liked to see that. But just as it is, I think his tunic looks great. I think his hair mold is great. His face mold is great. I love they kept the yellow stripe. I will say though, the face printing is not as dark as it should be, because the yellow line should really stand out. It needs to be. It needs to have a little bit more red tones, and maybe just a shade darker, because the yellow line doesn't stand out as well as it does on the card art.
Yeah, it looks a little more Clone Wars-ish in a way.
Yeah. Not even that, because I remember in the Clone Wars, the yellow line stood out as well.
It definitely did. This one's more like a banana yellow than like a solid yellow.
Yeah, you're right. It's. I think it needs a little bit of a different shade of yellow, and maybe a different face, like kind of just a different shade with a little bit more red and maybe some orange tones.
Yeah, but no, I definitely agree with that. I really like this figure a lot. Quinlan Voss is the cowboy Jedi, undeniably. Like this guy, it's funny how he's in the Phantom Menace and like Qui-Gon's on Tatooine. They don't even like make eye contact with each other. Or, like, hey,
Yeah,
you shut up. I'm on an undercover mission or whatever.
yeah,
Lord, who knows what he was doing? It's Quinlan
yeah,
Voss. He could be doing anything.
yeah,
I think they did a pretty nice job with this figure, but very much like you said, I think they just could have maybe tweaked the paint apps for the face and the hands for like
yeah.
the skin color and then also the yellow stripe going across him.
Maybe if this were re-released and not necessarily done with Phototech Reel, but obviously they would. I bet you they could fix some of those smaller problems.
They definitely could. And honestly, now that I think about it, Quinlan Voss probably had the most potential out of any other Jedi, even more than Ahsoka when it came to Legends, because
Yeah,
they
definitely.
used him a lot back in the day. Like he
Yeah, you're
was a
right.
killer dude. Like,
Obviously, he trained Ayla Secura.
yeah,
He trained her. I don't. He's just a really cool Jedi. I don't remember if in Legends he survived Order 66 because I remember there were some storyboards that were released for Revenge of the Sith where it showed him getting killed on Kashyyyk. But also, I've heard that he survived Order 66. So that's no doubt in
yeah.
the
I guess
comments.
we'll never know. I don't know, but he's definitely a great character. For me, I don't know if he's. Would you say he's an A tier or is he a B tier? Because I think he could maybe use a cloak. And
Yeah,
I want to
his
say, is this
new
cloak a dark brown or is it actually a charcoal gray? I can't remember.
in my mind's eye, I always thought it was kind of fuzzy, but
Let me see what his cloak is, because I know he's. I've seen something out there where it shows Quinlan Voss in a cloak of some kind.
yeah, he's definitely has a cloak. And I don't even think this is the best Quinlan Voss figure. I think that I think it was a comic 2-pack had him in his Clone Wars look, but kind of brought into real life, like a lot of those comic packs do. And I think that is probably my favorite Quinlan Voss. But given that this is obviously Phantom Menace, I think it's pretty fantastic. I would have to give him, I want to give him an A, but I'd have to give him a B because I know that he's missing some things and does have some problems.
Okay. And just looking at photos real quick, I guess, yeah, I've seen him a lot more in his Clone Wars getup than in his tunic or anything, but we'll figure it out one day. We'll come across some production still or him in his costume and we're like, oh, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Or maybe he didn't have a cloak at all. I honestly, now I'm looking at the photos, I'm like, shoot, did he have a cloak or am I getting
It might
things
just be
mixed up
dark.
again?
It might just be in the shadows. Maybe that's it.
Could be. I don't know.
All right, moving on. Who's this guy?
All right, VC86 Darth Maul. Now, for the day, I think this figure in particular was an all new figure, and I want to say he was one of the more sought after ones back in the day. Like I remember the hype around just this Darth Maul alone. It's pretty good. He's got some soft goods to him. He's got the removable cloak or the hood. He's also got his binoculars and then both versions of his saber. I think he's very nice. Oh, and actually, does the saber split in two?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. So this Darth Maul, they re-released him again with Phototech. I don't know if it looks better or not, but
I think it looks just
clearly it holds up
slightly
very well. Like, what was it you said
I think it looks slightly better.
for the Phototech?
Yeah, because usually with Phototech, and obviously there's exceptions to this, but they have a little bit more consistent printing. And obviously
I don't
there's
know about
screw
that,
ups
but
with the eyes, but
yeah, no, I know what you mean. Like it looks more like eyelids. Like for the TVC Maul, his eyes are a bit squinted, kind of.
and it's a little more symmetrical, I think, on at least for the ones I've seen. I can't speak for all vintage collection
Yeah.
Phototech figures.
But it's definitely, I mean, clearly they reused him again, so there is some credibility to this mold and how good of a Darth Maul figure he is.
Yeah.
Do I want to say he's an A? I honestly don't know if he's a definitive status figure or not. That's a bit tricky to answer.
Well, what
I
is your
think a B
definitive
would
Maul?
be for sure. He's definitely a B. I just don't know if he's an A.
I guess I don't know. I mean, my definitive Maul is torn in half between Clone Wars and Phantom Menace. But I'd say if you were to ask just someone off the street what you think Darth Maul looks like, they would say this. So I would say an A because he is very definitive.
Okay, then we'll definitely make him an A because he does deserve it. He is a very nice Maul figure.
Moving on to Luke Skywalker, and I think this is the lightsaber construction version.
Yep.
I don't love this figure. I think the head sculpt is just really weird. I do think they did the hair right though. The hair on this figure is pretty great. It matches. It's well sculpted, but the face is just weird. And I think it's cool that they included a new mold for his saber hilt, where it's got the flap open and he's can have like be poking at it with this little tool that he's got. Um, I don't know. I can't really think of much else to say on this figure. I would actually put this as a D, but that's just me.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a bit mixed on this one as well. I like that they did do the actual Jedi looking Luke just before the Jabba's palace, but his hair is, I don't know. I don't know why they made it so swoosh. Like it's almost like there's wind or something when his hair didn't look like that at the beginning of Return of the Jedi.
It's how he looked in Jabba's palace, which I guess gives them some playability.
I don't know.
But
I don't even know if I'd say that. His hair didn't look very. It looks like Lego hair. That's what it looks like.
yeah, I don't know. I think it's a good representation. It's not as down. It's not. It doesn't have as much of the bangs as he did in that movie. But
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. Like there's a certain Luke figure out there. I think it's probably the Legacy Collection Endor Luke with his poncho. The hair sculpt and head sculpt on that one is one of my favorite Luke figures for such an old figure, mind you.
yeah,
But this one, I don't know. It's got some decent things to it. He's got great articulation, pretty decent accessories. He's just a bit of a mix. But this is
yeah,
really cool since he is part of the deleted scene Blu-ray. So
which is cool.
it's a unique figure in that sense. But there's just not much going for it. So I might have to say it's a D. Even with the re-release, it wasn't. It's like,
Yeah.
really this again? Like,
The re-release, he just looked old.
yeah, like, I don't know. It's an okay figure, but not my favorite Luke. Not at all.
And
But
next, what can you tell us about Sandstorm outfit Leia?
so for this figure, this is the exact opposite of the Luke. I think this is a very nice deleted scene figure because it reminds me of the Legacy Collection when they did like they did an actual Sandstorm Luke, which I have the figure of. They did a Sandstorm Han, I think, and maybe a Sandstorm Chewie or something random like that for those
Yeah,
deleted scenes or whatever. This figure is very nice. I think it's got good goggles. It's got a pretty nice staff. It's funny is they're always giving that Leia that staff piece, but this one looks better. And
I
then
think
it's
this
also
might
got a
actually be a different
sculpted
piece.
tunic and hood, and it's a
Yeah,
very nice looking Leia figure in my opinion.
Disney should totally remake this one, not the Slave Leia costume.
Yeah. So for those of you watching, under that cloak that she has, it's actually the slave Leia figure.
Yeah,
Because what other outfit would she be
yeah,
just escaping the sail barge? So really, Hasbro could try to pull a fast one on Disney. I don't know, and re-release this particular version because it is actually a nice figure. It's got decent
yeah.
articulation and everything.
Let's see
But
if we
I don't
can
know.
pull the wool over their eyes.
Yeah, pull the cloth goods over their eyes.
Yeah, pull the
But
cloth. There we go.
yeah, it's a pretty nice figure actually. I don't think it's definitive status or anything like that. It's a nice variant for sure. So I think
I would
I'd probably
probably
give
put
it like a
this.
B or C maybe.
I would say probably a B, just because I think the amount of accessories and cloth goods, it just makes it a little better than the Slave Leia one.
Now, even better than that Slave Leia. Tell us about this next one, Liam.
Sandstorm Lando. This is a really cool one because he comes with both his skiff guard hat and of course a hood and goggles, and he comes with his vibro axe. And he also comes with like this cool little like beeper thing. I guess it's got a screen. It's red. It's cool. It's a cool little reader. I actually don't know what he's got under the cloth robes. Do you like?
Yeah, it's his skiff outfit. I have
It
this
is?
figure loose.
Okay, cool.
I love this figure. It's
Yeah,
it's
it's pretty cool.
awesome. It's one of okay. So this one takes. It's almost like the Leia took the things, or the Leia was an improvement of the things that Luke lacked. Lando is an improvement of what Leia lacked. This
Yeah,
Lando is like. This is definitely an A for me, honestly.
I
With the
agree.
amount of
It's an A.
accessories and detail put into for such a specific figure, but you could also double him as sail barge or Jabba's palace kind of character.
Yeah,
This one is awesome, like
I agree.
through and
A.
through. I love it.
Get him up there.
So he's definitely an A. Um, Next up, we have VC90. This is Colonel Kraken, who's a part of the Millennium Falcon crew in Return of the Jedi. Another deleted scene Blu-ray figure. I think he's pretty cool, actually. I don't think the head sculpt really looks like the actor
Yeah,
that played him. Uh,
hair's really
really, the
different.
only notable thing about him is the giant gun thing that he has. I don't even know what that is, but it's pretty cool looking.
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah,
mold.
he's just probably a C. I don't know.
I would say C as well. I don't really think I don't have any strong opinions about this one.
Yeah, like he's cool, and I like that they included him, but like, I don't know.
But coming
He's
up,
just another guy. He wasn't even in the movie. So, but this
but
next
next
one,
we have a masterpiece, in my opinion.
agreed.
The Mon Calamari Rebel pilot, and I think he pilots an A-wing, and that's why he's got the green jumpsuit. This figure is so cool.
This right here.
He's amazing. There's no denying it. There's no everything about him is perfect. The paint apps, the fact that his like helmet is removable, so you can get like just a normal Mon Calamari head and a Mon Calamari with the pilot head, and it fits on him too. It's not like weird or clunky like the B-wing pilot. It fits on him. It fits. It's amazing. It's perfect. Slap that guy up to an A tier, maybe even an S tier. I'll let you decide.
Oh boy, you're making me make the decision here. I absolutely adore this figure. I have him loose and only missing the gun, unfortunately, but I also have him carded. One of my all-time favorites for definitely for the Blu-ray deleted scenes, but also just for the vintage collection in general, because he's so unique and he represents everything about Star Wars. Just having the odd side characters. Look, he's an action figure. Oh, look, he's a pilot. Like, he is epic through and through.
Yeah.
Does he warrant an S tier, even though he's not like a main character or anything like that? What say you? Because my heart says S tier, but
I tossed it to you and you tossed it right
I
back.
know we're playing ball here. So if you had to look at him objectively, is he a perfect action figure for a pilot?
Yeah, he is.
Okay. I
He's an
think
S.
that settles it then. He's an S tier. We can't help it. He's
Look at
in
it.
our opinions, we really like him. I don't know what the rest of the world thinks, but I especially adore this guy. So I think it's safe to say he's maybe an S tier. I don't know. Okay. Next up, we got a pretty famous action figure. We have the VC92 Anakin Skywalker from the Clone Wars. Honestly, I love this figure. They re-released it with Phototech, which is pretty cool. I still prefer the original. That's just me though. I don't know where to put him. I don't know if I want to make him an S tier or an A tier.
This is actually my favorite Anakin figure ever. I think he's my favorite. I consider him to be the best. I would say S tier because that's just me speaking from a personal favorite, but I can recognize that he does have some flaws. That being, um, the blues on his torso and his skirt really don't match, and it's kind of jarring. Um, I can't really think of a way to fix it. I don't know if they just didn't have the fabric, and even on the re-released one, it's apparent. Maybe a little less so, but it is apparent, and so does the red. The red is super vibrant on the cloth goods, and then kind of dull, maybe a little brownish on the, I guess, normal like uh, plastic pieces. I feel like maybe if they had to do it, I think they should have just made the colors on the body a little more vibrant, just to match the cloth goods, or make the cloth goods less vibrant. And I think I would prefer the cloth goods being less vibrant, but since that seems like fabric seems weird in toy world, I don't know. There are some problems with it. I would say A tier, objectively speaking, but I love this figure. I love this look for Anakin, and I love the card art.
Yeah, that card art is seriously awesome, especially since they put Hayden Christensen's face over it and
And
it
his
just
hair is
looks
shorter
seamless and
too.
natural. Like that was the first time they ever did something like that, really.
And I
About
honestly
it.
think they should do more of that. Please, Hasbro, please.
I know.
Also, his hair is way shorter, like in the Clone Wars. It's not as long as it is in Revenge of the Sith, and I
Yeah, it
think
looks
that's a
great.
detail that is severely overlooked, and I think it needs more recognition. Dagnabbit,
Yeah,
I want it to be an S, but I know it's an A.
honestly, this is a just because it was a brand new figure. Oh, man, this one's one of the trickiest ones to date. Do we make it an S tier for just how epic it is, or do we make it an A tier because we're just piling onto the S tier list? I don't know. Um,
Well, later on, we do get, I mean, obviously, this is later on, but as we go on, there's going to be more S tiers.
there definitely is. So maybe it's only natural.
So,
What's do we just throw them up in S?
yeah, get them up there.
All right, we'll put them up there. Put them on the big boy shelf.
Actually, I'll let you introduce this next one since I know you were the one who
Okay.
introduced me to it.
So this figure right here, VC93 Darth Vader. My very first vintage collection figure I got back in the day. Found him at a Target, the only one hanging on the peg, just by himself. And I realized at that moment, this would have been around 2012 or so. So I was in middle school, and I realized, oh shoot, I don't own a Vader figure. I don't know how that happened. It just did at the time when I was a kid. I was more interested in buying Legos and such. And then at that moment, I realized I didn't have a Vader figure. I told my mom, I'm like, can I please get this? And she got him for me. And I immediately ripped that sucker open and played with him. I genuinely do like this Darth Vader figure. The helmet sculpt for the day is pretty good. They even did the amber red eyes, which is something that they didn't really do a whole lot of, mind you.
Yeah.
So he definitely was the kind of first for a New Hope specific Vader in that sense. I really do like this figure personally for me since I'm so attached to him. But at the same time, there is at least one better Vader figure. And I have to say, this one is either an A or a B.
I would say this is an A. This is my personal favorite Vader that I have currently. Um, like you said, there are better Vader figures out there, but this is my favorite that I have. I would give him an A tier, not an
Okay.
S tier, but he's also not a B tier.
He's a very nice Vader. Like, for the time, it was, I don't know, there was just something so magical about having that particular Vader figure
Yeah.
in general. It was just an awesome one, and I really do love it, and it holds a special place in my heart, that's for sure.
All right, Imperial Navy Commander. This is a meh for me.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree.
It's all right.
He's
I would
just
give
a
him a C.
trooper. He looks very nice, looks like the costume, but not much to it.
I'd give him a C.
Yeah, I think he's just a solid C. I do think, well, maybe this is as definitive as it gets for the type of trooper. I don't know, but I think
Is it
that's all
really
he
a
really
trooper
is. He's just a
class?
trooper.
Is it really a trooper class? I mean, I've always thought of these as more just like people in the Death Star.
Yeah, they're in the Death Star. They're in the Star Destroyer. They're in the Endor base. That's about it, really. He was a peg warmer back in the day, I think. Yeah. This guy I do remember seeing. I'm like, oh, I don't want him.
Yeah.
But he's aged a little more gracefully over the decade.
Yeah.
They re-released him once in the Black Series line for the, I think, orange or maybe blue. I can't remember. But yeah, if
I think he's just good enough to age well, but also not be that great.
yeah, I mean, it's a pretty basic costume to begin with. There's not much more we can say about him. Next up, we have VC95 Luke Skywalker in the Hoth outfit. Now, this figure, I think, is genuinely pretty good. I like the articulation for it. I like the proportions, and I think the face captures Luke pretty decently, in all honesty. And it's even got the green goggles, which I do really like. This one, although it's a bit odd because you don't, how did they do it? You can't ever have the green goggles over his hat. They're permanently sculpted with the scarf over it, and it looks a bit weird and it's a bit deformed. This version, I don't know if it's definitive, in all honesty. So I might either say it's either an A or just below an A out of B.
I would say it's a B. I think I can't really add to anything that you said. It covered just about all of it. I like the articulation, but it's not an iconic Luke for me.
Yeah, I think they could probably definitely make a newer version that's better than that version, I think. But this next
But
one,
next up, this is my favorite vintage collection figure. This puppy is stunning. I would say move him right on up to an S tier right away. Look at this guy.
I think
Oh
so.
my gosh. His lightsaber is straight out of the game in those old cinematics that they used to make, which I think if Star Wars video games did that more, or at least to the extent that they did it, because it really looked cool. I remember
Like
watching
that
the,
trailer was a movie.
yeah, seriously, the Deceived short is just mind-boggling. It
Better
is
than anything
so
Disney has
cool.
made in years.
Oh, definitely.
All
And
honesty,
that
it's a work
final
of art.
duel, it was so cool. It blew my little 7-year-old mind.
Yeah,
Yeah, this guy's an S tier. I can't even look at him.
he's
Guy's
epic. He really
cape, his
is.
hood, his sick costume, his sick saber. He looks sick. It's amazing.
And you don't want the Black Series version. That one sucks. The paint apps are
Really?
a lot worse on the Black Series, and his eyes like make him look more crazed and delusional than angry and furious. Like this one captures Darth Malgus. It's terrifying how good this figure
Yeah.
looks, and just his bulk and stature and everything. He's a killer action figure, and I remember getting him probably 20, might have been 2015, 2016. Got him on eBay, unpunched for only $20.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that back in the day? Like unheard of now.
Yeah. What a world.
Yeah. So next one, VC97 Oddball. Another one of those figures. What? Why did I get rid of my Revenge of the Sith figures? I don't know. I had him back in the day, and I sold him. This guy is probably one of the coolest clone pilots released, and one of my. He's towards the top of the list for favorite Revenge of the Sith figures. He's excellent. I honestly can't think of any real flaws with him. I like him a
Looks a
lot.
little
I
weird.
love the helmet. He's just a pilot figure. He needs an ARC 170 to pilot though, but he's killer. He's awesome for just having a a few scenes in Revenge of the Sith at the very beginning, and then poof, there he goes.
Barely even that. It was only really one scene, and he like showed
They're
up
all
and
over
like
me.
left it back.
It's awesome. It really is for a figure to make that specific of a clone.
Yeah.
I love it. So I would probably venture to say I would want to give it an A, but I know he's only a pilot with nothing more to him, so he probably is a B. But
He's a very high B. I think his legs look just a little weird, but when he's sitting in a cockpit, it's not going to matter. So I would say B.
he is really cool. They knocked it out of the park, and I wish I could get him back. Honestly,
Speaking of really cool, Grand Moff Tarkin. Holy crap, this figure is cool. It is amazing. Look at the his like ranking badge. It's so well printed and it's so small. Like, oh my gosh, and the green is perfect. It matches the movie. The cloth goods, I'll admit, could be better, but I
yeah,
still like that they're included. Um, is that a mouse droid behind him?
yeah, he has a mouse droid.
Okay, well, great. There you go. You get your mouse droid and you get Grand Moff Tarkin. Um, he looks great. His head sculpt isn't exactly like Peter Cushing, but it gets
But
the
it's
idea
very
across.
good for the day. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
it looks very good for the day. I
His
would put
card
this as
art
an
is
A tier.
pretty neat too. It's interesting how they chose. I don't know. It's like it's got a yellow effect over it. Like it is, I don't even think it really matches anything else in the movie, but for
Yeah,
like
you're
that
right.
color grade. But it's pretty
Just
neat
the set art.
nonetheless. It reminds me of a vintage card back for sure.
Yeah. I
I
would
would
give this an A tier.
say, hmm, I really do like this figure. I've seen it only twice in my entire life. I've seen him at Star Wars Celebration, Orlando, and then just a while back at another comic shop that had him for like $100 or 130 or something ridiculous like that. He's a pretty great character, but he's not a perfect Grand Moff Tarkin, if I'm being honest. I would probably venture to say he's a B. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say he's an A. I don't know.
I'll settle for a B.
I think he's a solid effort for the day, but he definitely could be better. So this next one we have is VC99 Nikto Skiff Guard. Now, I really like this figure a lot. I think he's got some great face sculpting and especially the paint apps for him. Like it looks just like the character, like it's kind of creepy eyes with that side glare. Like I don't know, it's a little unsettling to look at him, but it's a really cool costume and it's a really cool character. This one is on a lot of people's list as one of their top favorites for the sail barge ones. I just think for me, I like a couple of others more than this guy. So I'd be willing to say he's either an A or a B for me personally.
Yeah, I agree. I would say he's maybe an A. I really like the kind of tealish color to his tunic. I really love the head sculpt for this alien as well. Definitely a solid B for me, but also I'd totally get an A.
I think just to give this figure some credit, I'd probably give him an A. He is pretty cool still at the end of the day. What about this next one?
Starkiller, Galen Merrick. Now I heard a rumor that with a lot of the promotional stuff for this game, they were not allowed to refer to him as Galen Merrick or anything other than Starkiller or Vader's Apprentice. So this
Is
figure,
that true?
that's what I've heard somewhere, and I don't know if it's true or anything like that. But if it is, it's kind of cool because it shows up on this packaging as Vader's Apprentice. And
yeah, that is pretty sick, honestly, and I think that works well. Did this come around as the same time of the game? I thought the game came out like what 2007 or 2008?
I don't know.
2009? Oh shoot, I can't remember right now, but
we'll have to research it.
Yeah, this figure is epic, and I just got the Black Series one a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, and that looks even better in person.
Yeah, it's the Black Series one isn't bad. So it's not like the Darth Malgus one where the paint apps are terrible. The Black Series one, I think the only difference is a couple of different shading differences, but also just the eyebrows, really.
Yeah.
The Vintage Collection one looks more realistic, whereas Black Series, they're very sharp and they look like Spock, but that doesn't bother me too much,
fair,
actually.
On the card art, on this Vintage Collection card, his eyebrows are fairly sharp.
They definitely are. And his card back is sick.
Yeah, I concur. It's amazing. It really captures Sam Witwer even a little bit more than Galen Merrick in the game. And I really like that because I think I would personally cast Sam Witwer as Starkiller if they ever adapted him into live action.
Yeah, definitely. This is definitely an S tier for many people.
It's an
you
S tier.
Consider it an S tier?
I would.
Okay. Yeah, I think I really love this figure. I can't even think of an actual fault with it. It's that good.
Yeah, neither can I. It's amazing.
This next one, I prefer even more. Next up, we have the VC 101, Shae Vizsla from the Old Republic, and she's a bounty hunter. This right here is perfection. I absolutely love this figure. I love the removable head where you can have the bounty hunter helmet or her luscious red hair. Her armor is beautiful. Paint apps are beautiful. Sculpting is beautiful. Has her weapons, and she even has flamethrowers.
For both of her hands, not just one.
What more could you want? The card art is also amazing.
Totally.
I wish we could get stuff like this again. I really do.
So do I. It's incredible.
I
think my only nitpick, and it's the smallest nitpick in this entire video, is the fact that her midsection, just above the top of the torso, is a little skinny, but also the top of the armor is a little bigger. So it is in proportion. It just kind of looks a little weird on first glance.
It definitely does. She's very almost anorexic in a way, but
just in that midsection though, the rest of it looks fun.
Rest of it looks awesome. If Starkiller is an S tier, then this one is
an S tier
through. Well. Absolutely.
Yeah, this is a solid S tier. Galen Merrick just made the cut, but this one.
Yeah, this one was mind-blowing back in the day. And so, if I remember correctly, I remember seeing her only one time in my entire life in store. It was at Toys R Us, and I saw her hanging there, and I'm like, oh, she's pretty cool looking. And I didn't realize how hot of or sought after of an action figure she was back in the day. So I was maybe thinking, oh, maybe I can come back when I get some money and then come back and get her. Never
So
saw her again after that.
I saw
So,
her at Age of Comics once, I believe.
ooh,
Yeah,
man. What was the price they were asking? Do you remember?
no idea. I was a dumb kid.
Man, if we could just travel back in time and get these, like,
Story
oh,
of our life.
oh man.
Next
But
up, Ahsoka. Oh my gosh, this figure is perfect. I think this one is actually better, from what I've seen, is better than the new Clone Wars release one that they're Clone Wars Season 7 one. I prefer this version of her outfit over all other Ahsoka outfits.
it's my favorite
Um,
too.
it's amazing. It's the iconic Ahsoka look that everybody knows. Um, green sabers look good, and also there is a difference in shading between her Shoto blade and her standard lightsaber blade, which, like in the show, her Shoto blade is a little bit yellowish, not yellow, but it is more of a lime green. And I love that they carried this over to the figure. The card art is based on Ashley Eckstein, the girl who actually played her in the Clone Wars, which is just amazing. And it's a perfect figure. I would say this is an S tier. We've got 3 S tiers in a row.
Yeah, we really can't. We can't go wrong with these figures. This was towards the very end of the vintage collections run is when
They
they
landed
pumped
it hard.
out the
Yeah.
best figures they made, just like figure after figure after figure. It's like we were losing our minds at the time, and
Yeah.
I only wish I was able to get more of them. But history is history. It's fun going back and trying to get them now for sure. I'm at this point like 48 out of 115 figures, which I still have a long ways to go. But yeah, this Ahsoka figure genuinely is, even back in the day, it was like the epitome of the vintage collection of just
Yeah.
how cool it was. Like, even within the past, I'd say 5 years, on average, she was about, I remember her being briefly at around $150, but then she jumped to 200 around 2015. And then after, like, it seemed 2016 or whatever, she was a $300 figure.
Yeah, I
And
think at
she wouldn't go
$300.
down since then. And nowadays, forget it. You can't find her under $500, it seems. It's
Yeah.
insane how expensive she is. But yeah, this one is definitely an all-time one. And the next one, VC 103, Obi-Wan Kenobi from the Clone Wars. Can't deny it. It's an S tier.
It's an S tier one. What the heck? I changed my answer. This is my favorite. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'll let you say the first word. But
Yeah, I remember hunting high and low for this figure back in the day. I could never find it for the life of me. I know of at least one person that found one at a Hastings. I could never find it. I can tell you that. It's an epic Obi-Wan. It still is to this day. And they even re-released it for Phototech, but still, I want that original one carded.
I think in terms of figure, I think the re-release is just ever so slightly better because I think with the Phototech reel, I think they made the hair just a little bit lighter because I think Ewan McGregor, he doesn't have brown hair, although I do like how they did the highlights on this figure.
Mhm.
Anyway, oh my gosh, this figure is perfection. This is the best Obi-Wan figure. I don't care. Oh my gosh, look at that card art. It takes a frame from Attack of the Clones, I believe, and shoves some gunships in it and then puts Obi-Wan in his best outfit front and center.
It's amazing.
It's,
The card
it
art
is
is
perfection.
It's glorious and stupendous. I love it.
It's immaculate. It is so civilized.
Yeah. This one is a real hello there moment for sure.
Yes,
So,
it's beautiful.
next up, VC 104 Lumot. Now, I really do like this Ewok figure, actually. I love that it has his bow and arrow, and actually, he's got 3 separate arrows to go with his bow and his what is it? His staff, I guess you can call it. What can I say? He's just a great looking Ewok. He has a great card. I'd probably say, oh, it's a spear. That's what it is. I'd probably say this Ewok is one of the better ones. I would probably put him at an A. I don't think I give him S status, but he is very nice nonetheless.
All right. I cut some slack with Logray, but I have not renounced my hatred of Ewoks. I think that this is Not as good as Wicket at all. I think this would actually be a C tier figure, and I will explain why. Not just because of my hatred of Ewoks. I think the bow is a little bit clunky. I think it's a little, I guess, a little too thick. And I understand that it's a small figure, it's a small accessory, but I think given the size of the arrows, I think they could have made it a little thinner and made it look a little better. His spear is good looking, but it's just a spear. It's kind of, that's good, I guess. The figure itself, I don't know. The wash isn't as good as I would like it to be. I think he's a little bit more brown tones in the actual movie, because especially on the card art at least, it looks a little bit more like he's got yellowish fur, which obviously I don't think it's yellow, but I think it's less desaturated. Um,
He's a pretty gray looking Ewok.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna have to give him a C.
Yeah, I'll settle for a B on this one.
Yeah.
I really do like it, and he's an expensive one. He's like over $100 or something like that. But one day I would like to own him. I think he's pretty great looking, and I like how much it reminds me of the original Kenner figure as well. Now this next one is pretty exciting.
Return of the Jedi, the Emperor's Royal Guard. There are few things as iconic as this, and I think that this figure knocks it out of the park because it includes both the movie version of these figures, which of course is the look we all know and love, as well as the Legends look for these characters. At least not like the standard Legends look, but a look that they had in Legends. I know that the face sculpt underneath the helmet is modeled after a specific character, which I do not remember the name of, but I know he's modeled after a specific character, and I really appreciate that it is. I think this is a fantastic figure. I would say it's an A.
Yeah, this one is definitely an A. For the day when it came out, this one was one of the best vintage collection figures money could buy. I remember people going nuts for it because it was part of the wave that never really hit stores, and it was pretty much an online exclusive. I think Lumot was part of that wave as well.
Yeah.
This one, any other day, I would say it's an S status figure just because of how good it is and really unbeatable it is as a character. But since we have so many S's, I'm probably just going to have to give it an A. But that doesn't discredit how amazing of a figure it is. Even with the Black Series re-release, the soft goods aren't even the same. Like, this soft goods for the vintage collection one, superior.
It's
genuinely
fluffy
superior.
without being fuzzy.
It's got the fuzz just like the original figure, and not like your I don't even know what the Black Series cloth is, but it's like it's partially see-through. It's very weird.
It's like how all the Darth Vader capes are for some reason.
Yeah, nowadays it's very stretchy. Like, I don't like it one bit. But this one, any other day, I would say it's an S tier, but just because we have so many on the list that are S tier.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, unless you want to give it S, but it's probably an A just because. Well, I mean, really, I think it is definitive status.
It is definitely definitive status.
Card could be modeled off the original. That's the only thing that's wrong with it, is it's not based off the original Kenner card. Other than that, this figure is perfection. It really is. Now, this next one. Was it my turn or yours?
I just did the Imperial card.
Oh,
next
okay.
one is me and Nub, though.
Okay, next one. This is a really cool one, actually. I think he was also part of the online wave. VC106, Nien Nunb. I just got this figure about a week or two ago. He is the best Nien Nunb figure ever made. Hands down. This is definitive status for an action figure right here. So for me, he has to be an S.
I would say A, just because there's not a lot with him.
There's not. It's only Nien Nunb, just the co-pilot to Lando. But
if we didn't make the Royal Guard an S, then I don't think this
I know. Well, see, this is the problem. So many of these next figures are S's.
I don't know. I don't know.
I know. He's only a side character, really. But
it's not even that. It's just Nien Nunb is amazing, but he doesn't come with a whole lot.
He doesn't need a whole lot.
He's not. I don't think of. I can't think of anything he would have.
He's got a unique rifle. He should have his pistol as well.
I love him. He would have, but he's a smaller figure. He doesn't come with much. He's amazing for what he is and what he's trying to be, but I don't think he's an S.
I don't know, man. He's definitive status. This is as good as he gets for Neonum.
Is it just because he's Neon Numb?
He needs a re-release, and
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, for Neonum, I don't think you could get better than this. This is not even a brand new 6-inch version could come close to him. I don't know, but
I'll let you have the S.
well, see, I either give Neonum the S or the next.
You have to decide: is it Royal Guard or is it Neon Numb?
Well, okay, just for equality, I'll give, unfortunately, Neonum an A. Because, once again, another perfect figure. Just too many S's right now. That's the problem. Okay, what's the next one?
Weequay.
What are your thoughts?
I mean, I'm of the people who don't really care for the Java Goons. I mean, I think they're cool. I love their designs, but as far as figures go, I've never like really needed them. That being said, this is one of the ones that I find really cool. His species was later used to make Hondo Onaka, who I really like as a character. I would give it maybe a B or an A because I think there's not other better figures for this. It's just, what do you think?
Well, for me personally, this is an S tier figure. He was a pain in the butt to get back in the day, and he's still a pain in the butt to get today. But this is as perfect as it gets for a Weequay Skiff Guard. Like, seriously, this one is way better than the previous Weequay Skiff Master. This one is as definitive as it gets, in my opinion. My heart wants to give it an S, but I could absolutely settle an A on this one.
Oh, this next one.
Oh, okay.
What are your thoughts on this?
So, Jar Jar Binks VC 108. I genuinely think, and I mean in all seriousness, this is one of the best Jar Jar figures ever made. I've got him carded. I don't have him loose yet. But the articulation for him and the sculpt work and paint apps especially work very well. Looks just like the Phantom Menace. And he's also got this unique like leather leather kind of soft goods for his lower skirt piece. It's really cool in all honesty. Like, and they give him a Gungan spear, they give him the energy thing. I forget what they're called, but this Jar Jar to me is as good as it gets, really. So I'd personally give him an A.
It's the best Jar Jar figure, and I hate Jar Jar. So, dagnabbit, those cloth goods are just really cool. The pleather that they have. Yeah, give it an A.
Okay. Yeah, this Jar Jar is as good. It's the best Jar Jar money can buy. Not even the 6-inch comes close to it because the eyes looked so squished on the 6-inch. This one just looks perfect. And I remember seeing him back in the day. I'm like, hey, that's a good looking Jar Jar. But what about this next one?
This next one's the Clone Trooper Lieutenant. This is one of my favorite Clone Trooper classes, I guess, from Attack of the Clones and early Clone Wars days. But again, I think he suffers. Excuse me. I think he suffers from the big head Phase 1 Clone Wars Trooper syndrome or whatever. I think it's cool that he's got his designation on his armor with the 4 circles. I love the color blue that they use. It looks extremely good on the packaging they made. I don't think the blue is exactly accurate to the actual movie, but it does look really pretty. It's just, I don't know. I don't think Phase 1 Clone Troopers look that good with this helmet mold.
So this figure, I really do appreciate. I love this figure. Have him loose. The blue is a bit of an interesting one. I don't even know what the color was for the CG model because in some photos it's very dark blue. It's very noticeable, and then others it's a very bright blue like this one. It's almost like an electric blue. Yeah. Personally, I think it is the electric blue, just based off of the lighting for most shots in the film. I genuinely do like this figure. My mind would absolutely give it an A, but just like any other clone, he's probably a B.
I would say B as well.
Now, this next clone, on the other hand, we have the VC 110 Shock Trooper. This one right here has some excellent paint apps. Same body and everything. It's just a repaint of the VC-15 clone trooper. Or you know what? No, I take that back. My apologies. This one is the same as the, I think the 501st and 212th clone trooper. It's got the skinnier body, just like the previous clone, actually. So sorry about that little bit of a mix-up. It's got the same skinnier body. It's got the rubber, larger helmet. I actually think this one is an A because it genuinely looks really nice as an action figure.
My heart is telling me S tier, but I know it's an A.
Yeah,
Oh
like
gosh, this takes every problem. It makes me ignore every problem I've had with the other clones.
Exactly.
Because of how gorgeous the Coruscant troopers look. I mean, I guess this is designated as a shock trooper, but in my head, they're always going to be Coruscant troopers. Anyway, it's so pretty. It's so cool. And I want to give it an S, but objectively speaking, it is probably just an A.
Yeah, like it's so tricky. We're in the final phase of the vintage collection when they just pumped out the best action figures of the best. Like, it's amazing what Hasbro made.
All right, next one is the Princess Leia from the Bespin scenes where she's, I guess, strolling around. I love this look for Leia. I wouldn't say it's my favorite. Maybe it could be my favorite, but I wouldn't say it's my favorite. The cloth goods look so reminiscent of the original, like how she looked in the movie. They're not transparent, but they're kind of that like pristine, not glittery, but like kind of just really.
It's very like almost like metallic for.
Yeah, metallic. Thank you. It's very, very shiny white, and I think that really captures the way she looked in the scenes that she had that outfit perfectly. I think the hairstyle is pretty accurate. I don't know. I think this is a really fantastic figure. I would give it an A tier, but there's not a lot with it. So I would
probably... No, this figure, I agree with you. This one is absolutely an A tier. What can I say about it? It's just a gorgeous action figure through and through. I remember back in 2012 when this wave came out. This was part of the Lost Wave, meaning it was on that blue card back for what Kenner originally sketched their toy card backs to look like versus what we actually got. So I remember seeing these characters on the pegs at Astro Zombies, and they wanted $20 a piece for them back in 2012. So I'm like, that's ridiculous. Who would pay that for these? But they were undeniably like excellent looking action figures. This one especially caught my eye alongside with Jar Jar. But I have her loose and I have her carded on both versions, and I absolutely love this figure. So she is easily an A for sure. So I'll give her that for absolutely any day. Now, this next one is the VC 112 Sand Trooper. This one is way better than the previous one. VC, what is it? VC 16 or whatever. This one is better because he actually has weathering to him, and like the sand paint apps.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. They did such a nice job for it. And he has his little droid and everything. He's got the, I can't remember what that gun is called, but this Sand Trooper for me with the orange pauldron, I'd actually say is an A tier figure.
I would have to argue that it's an S tier figure. And correct me if I'm wrong, but that looks like a different helmet than the original Sand Trooper. It's just, maybe it's just the paint apps, but
let me check real quick. I can't remember if they ever modified that helmet or not.
Because if it is, it looks a little bit like less blobfish kind of shaped. It probably is just the paint apps and the fact that I'm looking at it head on in this product image that I'm looking at. The sand paint apps are just incredible. It's just everything that was wrong with the last figure is immediately fixed with this one, and it comes with an extra accessory and has the orange pauldron, which is my preferred pauldron color for Sand Troopers. I don't know. I would say this is an S tier for me, but
yeah, it's tricky. I do love this figure, but the helmet is definitely not perfect for a Sand Trooper just because it's not the stunt prop shape. Yeah. And the closest one, believe it or not, is actually the 6-inch Black Series for both the orange pauldron #1 and then also the or number 3, whichever number it is for the orange 6-inch, and then also the black one from the Black Series Blue, which is number 1. If they had that helmet scale down for this scale, that would be the definitive Sand Trooper. I really do like this one. The head, you're right, is brand new. So it is a brand new helmet. That is correct.
It looks better. But
I don't know. Would I give this an S tier or would I give him an A tier?
Sure, you need to give you ranking. Forgot about it.
I don't know. What say you? Would you really want to give him an S tier, or
I don't know.
Is he the definitive Sand Trooper? That's the question.
I don't know. I am not a Sand Trooper buff. I will leave this to you.
Okay. Well, Sand Troopers, I'm a sucker for regardless. Other than that, the paint apps are very nice on this figure and everything. It's just the helmet that does it for me. That's my only fault with it. And given for the day, this helmet was incredible. It was amazing. They even had the white stripe going across. That is closer to accuracy, but the shape of it, it's not a stunt prop Stormtrooper helmet. And that's what gets me every single time.
Yeah.
So I think, unfortunately, I'm sorry, Liam, I'm going to have to give him an A.
Gotcha.
No matter how good of a figure he is, though, I'll still love him all the way. But this next one, was my turn or yours?
Yours.
Okay. Next one up is VC 113 Republic Trooper from the Old Republic. I think the answer is pretty clear.
S tier all the way.
When you talk about accessories, this figure has it. He has a pistol, he has a knife, and he has a gigantic Gatling gun looking thing. It is massive. It's as tall, it's almost as tall as him. He's got removable what's it called? The pauldron. You can remove the helmet and it looks in scale with the body with his head.
It's also accurate to the original cinematics with I think it was Satele Shan, and the scene where he runs up to Malgus and hits a grenade and blows them both up and gets scarred.
It's
and
amazing.
The scar on the figure, which looks cool.
The card back is gorgeous as well. This one is easily an S tier. There's no doubt about it.
And for the next one, we have a big long name, or as he's more commonly known, Pruneface. Oh my god.
Or a Marco.
This figure is amazing.
He
is such a cool alien design. He is oh my gosh, his cape, this soft goods. It's a type of soft goods that looks like soft to touch. It's not just like the normal soft goods. He's got pouches on the soft goods to where he would be holding his like ammunition canisters. He's got his blaster. He's got his little communicator thingy. Oh my gosh. And the green of the pants, it's just vibrant.
With the highlights on it. It's amazing.
Oh my gosh. This is an S tier. I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care what anyone else says. This guy is absolutely an S tier figure.
I don't care.
This is a figure. Leah might say otherwise, but this is a figure that I made him buy.
No, I bought it. I love Pruneface.
But yeah, because we came across it on Amazon. I'm like, dude, you need to buy this. I'm like, you should buy this figure. And he's like, you know what? I'll save up and I'll get it. And
you were doubtful of their shipping, though.
I was doubtful of that just because it was so cheap for the time. It was only like
$20 or something.
It was something crazy like that. For when did you get him? 2017?
Probably.
Yeah, like it was crazy. Like I wish I did that. I was too busy being a dummy. But yeah, that Pruneface is really cool. Yeah, buying my 6-inch. Yeah, I fell for the bait, but whatever. But yeah, Pruneface is a killer figure. I love him. I need him loose and carded. The only closest one I have to his species is Major Pano. I have that character, and he is just as awesome. So this Pruneface is basically a repaint of Major Pano, and it's epic all the way through. They're killer characters. Like when I was little, I actually thought Pruneface was a bad guy. I didn't realize he was a rebel. He's even got an eye patch. Like, how cool is this guy?
The space pirate through and through.
Absolutely.
Hondo Onaka. He was the OG.
Yeah, pretty much. This Pruneface, what can we say about him? This guy is just epic.
Through and through. But this next one is one of your favorites.
Yep. So closing off the TVC list, we have Darth Vader, Emperor's Wrath. Now, for me personally, I genuinely like this figure. This is one of my favorite Darth Vader figures ever made. I don't own one, unfortunately, but I would love to have one carded for the Return of the Jedi card, not the Lost Line look. And I do need to get a loose one of these days. This is where translucent helmets and gimmicks can be a bit of an oddity. You,
Yeah,
for the most part, they kind of do suck. Like, how many times has a translucent character worked out? But
very
this one is dang near perfect. It actually looks straight out in the movie with having the skull kind of partially molded inside of it. And like the way
yeah.
the light hits it, it genuinely looks like lightning lighting it up inside. And it's insane how they did it. It's an
It's
incredible
incredible.
figure. I
I would give it
would say S tier, but it's probably an A. But
I would give it an A tier just because it doesn't have the definitive nature, but it is pretty sweet. I won't lie. I can just imagine with like a little bit of lighting behind it, it would be perfect for that kind of display. Or you can have him just like with his hand right cut off, or
mhm.
I don't know. It's very scene specific. It's not even scene specific. It's very moment specific. But this is one of the few times that it works, and it works really well. I would give it an A tier, 100%.
Yeah, this figure is just solid. And what a weird way to end the vintage collection with this particular
Right.
Vader. Like, I didn't, I will be honest, during the time, I remember hearing the vintage collection was being put on hiatus. Well, which we knew for that time, it pretty much was canceled. There was no
Yeah. I mean, how
return,
many
there
years
was
did
no
it
hope of
take
it
for them to
returning.
pop back up again?
That was about 6 years, five,
Yeah,
6 years.
it's a long
Like,
hiatus.
it's a very long hiatus, and it's a bit of a mixed emotion having it end with that 115 figures over 2 years, what or three from got 2010, 2011, 2012.
Yeah,
It's an incredible run. It really is. Like,
it
just
is.
looking at all these figures just recaptures what I felt about Star Wars back in the day before Disney. Like, this right here was the pinnacle to be a collector.
Definitely. I'm glad we did this. This is such a walk down memory lane. I mean, it's just, it's the run that all other runs aspire to be. It's
Yeah,
just,
absolutely. And I mean, just like looking over it again, like some of these A tier figures really are S tiers. Like General Grievous, that's an S tier.
yeah,
Commander Cody is probably an S tier as well. Zam Wessel, if we're being honest.
but for that dang neck.
Oh yeah, just the neck. That's the only thing that holds her off. And then, of course, Emperor Royal Guard, Neonum, Weequay, maybe Jar Jar or Shock Trooper. Those are pretty equal. Like most of these figures just sitting in the A tier
I wouldn't
easily
let
could
him
be
get
up
it.
in the top like that. Like it's amazing how many figures they knocked out of the park for this line.
I wouldn't let you put Jar Jar in an S tier. I would
It's a definitive Jar Jar, if you ask me. I
put
don't
my
know.
foot down on
It's
that.
pretty near perfect. But like, for as much flack as the Phantom Menace gets, and especially for its figures,
Yeah,
look at how many good ones are in the list. Like, look at
you're
how many
right.
A
And
tiers are Phantom Menace or B tiers, which means they're pretty solid.
do we even have? Oh, well, we do have the Naboo guard as a C tier. I was going to ask if we had any
He's
below.
the only one that's really, I think he's the lowest on the list.
And
Yeah.
it's not even that he's a bad figure. It's just that he's meh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's just not the most exciting one. He was the peg warmer back in the day and
he's
one of the
average.
cheaper ones to get nowadays.
But yeah, Phantom Menace, it does have a lot of great figures, and it has a lot of the best designs in the series. I don't like Gungans, but I can totally admit how creative they look and how great, like, yeah, how interesting they look. I don't know, and you wouldn't see that without this figure line, at least not to the scale or to the extent.
Yeah, like I'm trying to think how much different would things be if we never got a line like the vintage collection. Like
I don't
who
think
was the
R2D2
genius at Hasbro who sat there just before 2010 and realized, hey, it's the anniversary of Empire Strikes Back coming up in 2010. We should find a way to celebrate it. And it becoming this massive success. It's incredible how much heart and soul Hasbro put into this back in the day. Like,
Yeah, you're right. I
it's
mean,
honestly unimaginable just to see how different things are these days. But
I I don't think any action figure companies would be like they are today like in the very least in terms of articulation. During the late 90s, kind of like the early 2000s, Toy Biz was really experimenting in like high articulated figures. They never really looked good, but this line gave us articulated, well molded, just beautiful figures that really defined toy collecting for years to come to today. And
Yeah.
it's just, it leaves its stamp on history in such a nice way.
I think so. This entire line was absolutely a love letter to collectors, and I think after making these videos, I think we're going to need to make more of these tier videos, especially for one for TVC vehicles,
Yeah,
TVC special action figure sets, and maybe TVC exclusives.
yeah.
The options are limitless. We could do this for other Hasbro lines as well. I think this is pretty fun, and it really does put it in perspective how great some of these toys are. Even a
Yeah.
decade later, some of these toys outperform what Hasbro makes nowadays.
Oh, easily.
Yeah,
Easily. Black Series has nothing on this line.
pretty much, honestly. This line is a true testament to stand against time, and it really is a timeless classic. But I think that'll bring this video to a close. I know it's definitely a long one and it's getting late at night. But if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new to the channel, and also share this video with your friends. We just want to share the love and appreciation of the vintage collection and really just talk about how fun and memorable of a toy line it was, because it was a blast for me, Liam, to do this with you. So thank you so much for joining me on this little adventure.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a blast from the past of my childhood. So thank you very much.
Yeah, same thing for me, man. So if you enjoyed the video, thank you so much for watching this, and stay tuned for more geeker things.
Make me cry.
I know.